You're listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast. Join your hosts as we review video games from all systems and all genres. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Zap Night. I'm your host, Danny.
I'm your co-host, Kaylie.
We are on episode 79.
Yay!
And we are talking about Chrono Trigger.
Yay!
Oh man, so my history of Chrono Trigger, and this will come up a lot, but my history with Chrono Trigger is, first off, it was my first RPG. My uncle had a copy of it, or I think he borrowed it from a friend or some, whatever the situation was. He had a copy of it, and he was playing Final Fantasy VII. And he told me that I couldn't play Final Fantasy VII because I wasn't old enough. So he gave me Chrono Trigger to play. And I spent a lot of time with my uncle growing up. He's only 5 years older than me. And so I played Chrono Trigger anytime I was over there. I stayed the night with him a lot. We hung out quite often. And so I was always playing Chrono Trigger. Well, then as I started getting older, I still wanted to play Chrono Trigger. So, it's just been one of those games that I literally grew up with this game. It was like the foundation of my RPG experience. And to be honest, this is probably the best game in the world to have a base of RPG experience on, just because it's such a great, phenomenal RPG. A couple things about this, though, and we may struggle with this, so I want to get it out of the way now.
We have terrible times pronouncing people's names.
Yes, but then everyone who's listening already knows that. When my uncle was playing the game, he named Robo Sleeple. No idea why. It's spelled SLEPL. And I think that's all the characters that you could fit in like the original Super Nintendo version. So anyway, if for whatever reason I say Sleeple instead of Robo, that's why. I'm going to make an effort to call him Robo in this game or in this podcast. But if for whatever reason if I don't correct myself, that's what that is about. There's one other item, and I may not correct myself on this one. The epic, or the epoch, the time machine in the game, you can name the time machine.
Which is super cute, by the way.
It is super cute. But for whatever reason, my uncle had always called it the Ree. R-E-E. No idea why, but it's stuck. So, like...
That's how it was growing up. That's like...
Sleeple and the epoch, or in the Ree, Robo and the epoch, it's just like, that's just what they were.
Well, I played this because you played it, and pretty much that's the history pretty much.
I basically just handed it down to you with the same stuff.
And so I grew up with it too, and I remember being little and like trying to figure out why his name was Robo, because he was always Sleeple. I never knew until I was, Yep. So
Yep, no idea why. I think it was an inside joke between my uncle and his friend, because it was his friend's game or something. I don't know the history. All I know is that's what we've always called it. And I mean, granted, we're talking a game that came out in 95. So like literally this was a long time ago.
I was 4.
Right. So like, that's our history with the game. Before we actually get into the meat of it, I want to let everyone know there's spoilers for the game. It's an old game, but if you've never played it before, just go play the game, please. It's on Steam. It's on iOS.
It's on I played it on the DS.
Yeah, it's on the DS.
It's 3DS.
Well, it's a DS game. You can get an emulator of it. Like, you can play this game. If you're interested at all and you haven't played it, or whatever, if you're worried about spoilers, play it first, then come back.
This is way better experience. First time, virgin eyes and ears. And
absolutely. It is, like, my playthrough was almost 29 hours. Kaylie, yours was 23. I have 23 and a half. Yeah. So, I mean, you're you're not investing like, the 40 hours in an RPG that a Final Fantasy game would be, but it's still go and experience the game for yourself because it'll make your experience so much better. With that out of the way, let's talk about the game. So, Chrono Trigger was developed by Squaresoft at the time. Now it's Square Enix. It was developed for the Super Nintendo in 1995. Then it was ported out to the PlayStation 1 for some weird reason in 1999. Then it was ported out again in 2008 for the DS. Then we got a mobile version for iOS and Android in 2011. And then they released it on Steam in 2018. The Super Nintendo version is the base version. That's what they're all modeled after. But the PlayStation 1, they introduced the cutscenes, the FMV cutscenes, and they're like fully animated
Dragon Ball Z
by the Dragon Ball Z artist. And they're phenomenal. That's like the only reason to play the PlayStation version is for that. But the PlayStation version has a terrible, terrible flaw.
Yeah.
And that's that the game freezes, or it pauses for a second between battle screens, or between your fight. And then it also will stop again with your menu, opening up your menu.
The menu's the worst, in my opinion.
Well, all of them, really. Like, any time that the game isn't just, like, smooth, it's weird. Now, if you've only played the PS1 version, maybe you wouldn't notice it as much. But, like, when I got the PS1 version, I'm like, ooh, this is really amazing. I want to see these cutscenes. I fired it up, watched the original cutscene. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then, like, started playing the game, and it, like, you go into a battle, and it's like,
yeah.
And it's like, those couple seconds just make the difference, and it's annoying and frustrating.
I just remember accidentally hitting the menu button and just face palming, because you're going to wait like half a minute.
You have to wait for the menu to open, and then you have to wait for the menu to close again. So it's like, the loading is just absurd. Yeah. But the cutscenes were awesome, and then they came out with the DS version, which in my opinion is the definitive physical edition of the game. It's the great Super Nintendo version, no lagging between battle screens or menu items, but you also have the cutscenes, and that is the way to play the game. Granted, the game goes for like $40 to $50 online right now. It's kind of expensive. It's kind of annoying that it's that expensive, but the cutscenes are awesome. I played the Super Nintendo version, so I didn't get the cutscenes. However, I own the original copy of the game, and I've had this copy for like almost 10 years.
Is this the original?
Huh?
The original Chrono Trigger that you played?
No. I don't have that, because that wasn't even our uncle's. It was his friend's. Yeah, so he had to give it back at some point. But no, I never owned it until I got married, and Lori, I think it was before we got married even, and Lori gave me a copy for my birthday or something. Aww. So, and I think at the time she'd only paid like maybe $35-$40 for it, and now it's going for like $120.
Wow,
so
yeah.
Good investment on her part, but also I love the game. So it sits, when it's not being played, it sits in a case on my shelf. So like it's one of the only games that it actually is in a case, and like I don't really display it a whole lot. It's just in its case on the shelf. But no, it's pretty awesome. And then you play the DS version.
Yeah. Which was amazing, like you said.
Yeah.
It was everything you could hope for.
Yeah, it really is. The worst thing about the DS version is that you're stuck on that little screen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can play it on an XL, and it looks pretty good. If you happen to have a 3DS with a capture card, you could play it on a bigger screen. But, yeah, that's, like, the only other way to play it. I was hoping that they would port it out to the PlayStation Nintendo Super Nintendo Classic, but they didn't. But we already have the copy of the game, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But they did put Earthbound on there. So, like, we could at some point play Earthbound. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the story.
Sucked.
The story starts off with you as Chrono, and Chrono is this orange, spiky-haired kid, and you're woken up by your mom, and the whole idea is to go to the fair to meet your friend Luca. You wake up, you go to the fair, and on your way to meet with Luca, you run into a girl, and she calls herself Marley.
Baby. I don't know what her name is. Is it Marl?
I was calling her Marley.
Oh, I have no idea.
Were you always calling her Marl?
I always called her Marley, but I could never figure out.
I guess it depends on how. It doesn't matter. I've always called her Marley, so that's what we're going with.
All right.
Anyway, she loses her pendant when you bump into her, and you pick up her pendant and you give it back. And then she wants you to guide her around the fair. You take her around the fair, and then you make your way to meet with Luca. Luca's working on a new machine because she is this inventor, scientist person. And her dad has made this new amazing teleporting machine where it can teleport you from one pod to the other pod. Marley's super excited about this, so she asks Chrono to jump in and do it first. Chrono successfully teleports from one pod to the other pod. She thinks that it looks cool. She wants to do it too. She gets in, and the pod fires up, but it interacts with her pendant for some reason. The pendant starts to glow, and a time warp gate shows up, and she gets sucked into it and disappears, leaving her pendant behind.
Right.
Luca freaks out, as you would, if you were the inventor of a machine that just carried someone off to who knows where. And Chrono doesn't have a voice in the game, so like you as the player, you just walk up, pick up the pendant, and interact with the machine. But from Luca's perspective, that's Chrono saying, hey, I'm gonna go and help find her. So he picks up the pendant, they fire up the machine again, he gets sucked into time. He ends up in the Middle Ages, where Marley is missing, and when he makes his way to the castle,
he doesn't quite know. You don't quite know yet.
No,
I mean, first player, you don't know where. No, you just assume you're at the castle.
Well, when you're talking to the townsfolk, they kind
eventually do. Yeah.
Well, they kind of hint at, hey, there's something going on at the castle. You should go check it out. I think. They talk about how the queen was missing, but she had just been found, that kind of stuff. So you get to the castle, and everyone is celebrating that the queen has returned. Well, when you finally find the queen, it's actually Marley. And she's all excited to find Chrono, because Chrono has, found her.
Went to find her.
Went to find her, right. And, at some point, Luca joins the party again, too, because I know that it's not just Marley who's there.
Well,
I think Luca...
You go and see Marley, and all of a sudden, her pen...
Right, but Luca's already there at that point. Yeah, Luca was already there.
Maybe she does. She joins you randomly.
I think
in the middle
you're
of the
traveling
castle.
in the forest between the castle and the mainland.
I see.
Anyway, at some point, Luca shows up and was like, "Hey, she made a key. That's what it was.
Yeah.
She made a
gate key.
Portable gate key to be able to go back and forth between time." In any case, Luca joins back up, and you go and meet with Marley. Marley is obviously being confused for the queen. And Luca informs us as the player that in the past, the queen goes missing, but the hero shows up and saves her. But because the queen has been found or mistaken as Marley, they
stop looking for the
actual queen. So her timeline begins to disappear, and Marley vanishes. And when she vanishes, you're kind of given this task well, we have to fix this because we messed up time. We have no choice but to fix it. So they start hearing rumors about weird stuff happening at the church. You go to the church and you find out that that the original queen is trapped at the church. You go through the church and you find the queen. And you find out that the chancellor this whole time is the one who has been keeping her hostage.
He's not really the chancellor. He's
the chancellor in disguise, because you
eventually do find the actual chancellor.
Yeah, he locked in a chest. Yeah. So you fight the like fake chancellor, you save the queen, you release the original chancellor, and you go back to the castle, and everyone's happy. The queen's returned, and then they find out that Marley was just mistaken, and you go back to your own time. When you return to your own time, the chancellor in current present day is very angry that Chrono had gone off with the princess.
Yes.
And they throw him in prison. Now at this point he didn't even know that she was a princess, but next thing you know, you're in a courtroom and you're being tried because they think you've kidnapped the princess. And this is where you find out that Marley is actually Princess Nadia. Yep. You are given a very just and fair trial. And I say that honestly, because if you've done things throughout the game up to this point, you can actually be proven innocent, like I was, because I knew ahead of time. Don't eat the guy's food.
I ate the guy's food.
Oh, you did?
I still wasn't tried. You have like so many. You have to get so many in your favor.
Yeah, there's so many things that are
you've got like
chosen
witnesses
for you. Yeah. And I knew what most of them were.
Yeah.
Like I didn't eat the guy's food. I helped the girl's cat. There was a couple others. I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, if you do all these things right and you answer the questions a specific way, then you're proven innocent and you're sentenced to like
2 days in jail,
3 days in jail, something like that. So Chrono gets thrown in jail, and as you're being escorted to your jail cell, the chancellor says, yeah, he's to be executed in 2 days. So, Chrono now is like, well, his only chance of survival is to escape. I mean, he's not guilty of this. So he escapes from the castle.
Did you know that you can actually wait out your 2 days or 2 or 3 days?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What happens if you do?
I was looking it up, and it says, because it counts down the days when you're in the cell.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And Luca actually comes in and rescues you. So you don't have to go, you don't have to, yeah.
Do you still have to fight the tank?
Yes, you do have to still fight the tank.
So in any case, you escape the castle, and on your way out, Marley tries to help Chrono by proving, stopping everything and trying to help him. The Chancellor will not let up, and they push, the Chancellor and all the guardsmen kind of push Chrono and Marley. Is Luca with them at this point?
I think so. Maybe not. Yeah, because they get pushed into another gate.
Yeah, they get pushed into another gate, and because I think Luca opens up the gate.
Well, yeah, Luca joins up with you in the cell, so... And that's
that's right. Yeah, so all three of you are together.
Yeah.
In any case, you get pushed into a gate, and this gate takes you to the distant future.
Very bleak.
While you're in the future, you investigate these like dome areas, and they're kind of like houses, kind of like cities, kind of just very futuristic things, but the world is very desolate. And as you're investigating the domes, you find out that the next gate is actually on the clear other side of the continent that you're on. So you have to make your way through the continent. You meet up with locals, finding out that everyone can survive with these pods. But because the pods are just restoring the body, they're not giving you nourishment. All the people there are so hungry. So you do a few things with like... helping them find out what's happening in the food cellar, and then you help a little girl with like deciding to plant a seed or something. Yeah. But you eventually make your way to the other side of the area where where the gate is, but you can't access it because the power is out. So then you go to this. Oh, I think that's where you find Robo. Mm-hmm. So or Slable, however you want to. But Robo's there. Luca fixes up Robo because
he's like broken down.
Right, he's just like chilling in this like dome that's been abandoned. When he comes to, he's like, "Oh well, the power's out, so we can't get in this room, but I can help you restore the power." So he escorts you to the power plant where you go through to turn the power back on. When you do turn the power back on, all of the other robots that are similar to Robo show up, and they are calling him defective, and they are beating him up. He greets them as friends, and it's really sad to see him get beat up. Actually, Robo's story is kind of sad in general.
I was curious, though, doesn't Lucas say she makes some modifications to him, which kind of makes him free of that, like...
Yeah, because I think...
programmed mentality.
I think Marley mentioned something like, how do we know that he's friendly? And I think she says something like, well, robots aren't made to be bad, or something like that. In any case, all of the other robots call him defective. It's
very
he fights all of the robots. Your party ends up winning, but he gets almost dismantled. The party that is in the power plant carries Robo back to Luca, and Luca restores him back in that dome. Luca restores him. And now with the power back on, you can try to enter that room with the new gate. As you're trying to enter that room, Luca is typing on the computer and finds recordings from End of Time. And this is where you find out that Lavos, at some point in the past, has come up from the ground and completely destroyed the world.
Yeah.
And left the world in this desolate state that it's in. With this in mind, Luca's like, well, can we do something to fix this? And the party at this point kind of decides to do what they can with this power of time travel to save the world. So they find the next gate, and the new time gate takes them to the end of time. And the reasoning being that because there was four characters now, Luca, Marley, Chrono, and Robo.
I almost did it.
I know.
Slaple?
They are forced into the end of time because only 3 people can go through a gate at any given time. So, they find out that there's an old man here at the end of time, and he can see glimpses of all of time, though he doesn't know the exact details. He kind of gives your party hints as you play the game, kind of in general. So you find out from him that if you want to do anything about the time, you should probably start in the medieval times. So they go to back to the medieval times, and you start poking around trying to figure out information about Lavos, which we know his name at this point.
Right.
And you really, more than anything, the biggest concept there is that there's this war between the monsters...
The mystics and the humans.
The mystics and the humans, right. And there's this great war being fought, and everyone is looking for the hero. And the hero is supposed to have a hero's medal. Well, apparently this little kid had come to the king with the hero's medal, but when you talk to the king is like, this little kid is not... I think Cyrus was his name?
Yeah.
The little kid's not Cyrus, who's supposed to have the medal, but because he had a medal, they think he's the legendary hero. So you go to find this kid, and on your way, you help out the troops to cross a bridge.
Bridge.
Where I think you meet Ozzy for the first time, which is Magus's right hand man. Yeah, because
they're leading like an attack, and the bridge is like the front lines at the moment.
Right. So, at this point, the party knows that Magus is the lead of the Mystics and is the one kind of controlling the army, and Ozzy is kind of like a henchman. So your goal right now is really to help the humans fight the Mystics, because, again, they already know the history. They know that Magus gets defeated by the hero, so they're trying to find this hero. You get word that the hero is in this mountain, so you go to the mountain to try and find the hero, and you find this little kid who has a hero's medal.
He's like fighting monsters and like doing terrible.
He's trying to get the mythical weapon, the Mazimune. And while you're there, you actually find the Mazimune, and you have to do a trial fight with Mazza and Mune to prove that you're worthy of having the weapon. So you fight them, they prove that you're worthy, they give you the sword. Well, the sword is actually broken. and you don't even have all of the sword, you only have the hilt. You leave, and you find the little kid back in his house. I don't remember. Tata, yeah. Rat-Tata.
Rat-Tata.
He has the medal. He says that he was playing somewhere, and he found the medal washed up ashore. So he gives you the medal because you're the one who has the Mazamune at this point. He gives you the medal, and you find... I think... Don't you come across Frog before this when you go through the...
I think there is, like, a hint to, like, get you to go.
I think you play with Frog at the church when you're trying to save the queen.
You are first introduced to Frog because he's searching for Queen Leanie.
Right,
who is the queen that you're looking for. But it's very brief. You barely have him.
Which is why we just glazed over it. So in any case, you're
really fully acquainted with him at this point.
Right, yeah. So you come across Frog again, even though we didn't mention it before, but you come across Frog, this frog who is humanoid in some way. He's a good swordsman, because you've kind of fought with him. And he just, I don't know, I guess maybe you would, there is a guy in a tavern that says something about a frog coming through, talking about the queen and mumbling something about a Mazamune. So anyway, you find Frog, and you show him the medal, and he kind of goes into a daze. He doesn't really
want to talk about it.
Yeah. So he walks off, and you find... You open up a little chest that's in his house, and you find the other half of the Mazamune.
Well, no. He gives it to you... when you show him the Mazamune. Because you run into him...
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You show him the medal, and he doesn't want to talk about it. But I think that part's optional. You don't have to go and see him to show him the medal. But you do have to bring the other sword part to him.
You have to have the medal.
Really?
You have to have the medal. And this is the problem. This was the first time I got stuck. Because I had the Mazamune... I didn't have the medal because I didn't talk to the kid back at his house.
Interesting.
So, I was looking, I talked to Frog, and Frog's just like, I have no wish to talk to you right now. So you leave, and it's like, what do you do? I have the Mazamune, I know Frog has the other half, what am I supposed to do?
Interesting.
So after you get the other medal, you show Frog, and Frog walks away. Well, he's covering a chest that's in front of him. When he walks away, you open up that chest, and it's the other half of the Mazamune. And you talk to him again, and he's like, oh, you have the Mazamune. He's like, what is going on? Why do you have the Mazamune? And then you're like, well, I think you get, at this point, you kind of get his backstory, where him and Cyrus are trying to fight Magus.
Cyrus was, the main,
Cyrus is, the hero.
He was, one of the lead swordsmen for the king, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, you find out that him and Frog, whose name is Glenn, they kind of grow up together, and Cyrus kind of tucks Glenn under his wing. Glenn is this little scrawny kid. He's not super confident in himself, but he's a really good swordsman, even better than Cyrus. But Cyrus is the one who pursues being a guardsman, and Glenn kind of doesn't care. So, but Cyrus always kind of protects Glenn, and Glenn, I think, kind of always follows Cyrus around. Cyrus goes off in search of destroying Magus, and in that search, he has to find the Mazamune, because legend tells that the legendary swordsman finds the Mazamune to slay Magus. Well, he goes to find the Mazamune, but he finds Magus instead. He fights Magus and loses, and Glenn just kind of cowers off, and Ozzy, who's with Magus at the time, Ozzy's this henchman monster, second-hand guy. Yeah. Anyway, Ozzy says, well, just kill him. And Magus is like, nah, I think I'm going to have some fun, and I'm going to turn him into a frog. Magus turns him into a frog, and Glenn falls to the ground and gets washed up in some water where he loses his medal.
You see it floating down the waterfall.
And that's kind of it. That's kind of where the backstory of Frog gets... And in your game, his default name is Frog, which is why we'll be calling him Frog, though his real name is Glenn. Similar to Marley and...
Princess Nadia.
Yeah. So, with Frog's history out of the way, like, his goal is to fight Magus, but he knows that the only way to fight Magus is to restore the Masamune. So, you go back to your own time, I think.
Yeah, you find...
sorry, go ahead.
You find Melchior.
Right. So, Melchior is, like, this guy in the festival, and you kind of talk to him, but he's this well-known blacksmith. Swordsmith.
Yeah.
And his name is actually on the hilt of the Masamune. So you go to him, and he's like, oh yeah, I totally know about this, but the only way to fix it is to find this redstone. And it's made out of this redstone, but you can't find it now. Like, it's a prehistoric stone. Like, there's no way for you to be able to find it. Well, luckily, your team is... time traveling. Yeah. So you just go back to prehistoric times where you run into Ayla. Right? Is that her name? Ayla? When you show up in prehistoric times, your party falls off this cliff, and there are these reptoids. They're everywhere, and they start attacking your party. Ayla shows up out of nowhere and just beats the snot out of these guys and chases them off. And she says, hey, you guys are strong, follow me. So you go back to her village, where she is the chief of this village, and she offers to throw you a party because you're the strongest in the land, or whatever.
The guest of honor.
Right. So you show up to the party, and you talk to her about needing the redstone. And she offers to give Chrono the redstone, but you have to beat her in a soup drinking contest, which I would assume in the Japanese version is probably a beer chugging contest.
I don't think my game called it soup.
Soup?
I think they just say drinking.
Oh, really?
It looks like soup, but
it's like this big bowl of soup. Yeah, I know, exactly.
Well, Luca in the corner is drinking it, and she actually gets drunk.
Yes, I know.
And it's hilarious.
Well, really, the whole game is kind of like that. There's a lot of censorship in this game, I've noticed, especially with alcohol being involved. A lot of times there's a guy at the bar who's like, I really like sugary pop, and it's like, really? In any case, sorry, I'm trying
we're throwing this party.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you're throwing this party. Everyone gets wasted. Chrono wins the drinking contest against Ayla. And Ayla says, I'll give you the redstone, no problem. You guys all pass out at the party, and you wake up the next day. And
you have the stone, but your gate key's missing.
Yeah, Luca says that her gate key has been stolen. And the obvious people to have stolen it is the reptoids. I don't know why I've been calling them reptoids. I always have. Anyway, they so you chase them to their like little hideout. It's like the maze forest or something. But you find out that
Ayla's their footprints.
Yeah, you find out that Ayla's friend.
Yeah,
is
Kino.
Kino, yeah. Actually took the gate key, but because he was jealous of Chrono.
Yeah, you kind of get like hints of it at the party where he's kind of jealous, and he just like, I don't see why.
So he took the gate key, but the gate key was actually stolen by the reptoids, and
well, he took it, and then they took it from him.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So now you still have to go and hunt down this key. So you chase him down through this tavern, and you find the queen of all the reptoids. What was
Azala?
Azala? Something like that.
Yeah.
You fight her with this huge big do you fight that? The dinosaur?
Dog? Yeah,
the huge dinosaur?
Yeah, the dinosaur. I don't know why I said dog.
In any case, you fight her. She gives you the gate key back, but she is like, her and Ayla are like brutal enemies.
She kind of views Ayla as the lead of the humans, or she calls them the apes.
The apes, yeah.
But Azela is the queen of the reptoids, or the reptards.
Yep. And she actually talks proper, where like Ayla talks like the stereotypical prehistoric caveman. Yeah. In any case, she leaves. You don't see her again, and you take the gate key, and you are able to go back to the Middle Ages with you're able to take the redstone back to get.
My bad. Not important. Going back, you don't fight the dinosaur. You fight that other like buff dinosaur.
Yeah, the big Tyrannosaurus guy. Yeah, he's a pain. Yeah, that's right.
In any case, I was thinking about, we weren't at the castle. You go to like a cave, don't you?
Yeah. You fight the big dinosaur in the castle. Anyway, we'll get back to the big dinosaur. You fight a Triceratops. Anyway, you still fight the queen, or you run into the queen, and she gives you back the gate key, but you know that you're going to fight her again soon. In any case, you take the gate key. Now that you have the gate key, you can get the redstone back to Melchior, who reforges the Mazamune for Frog to equip it to be able to go back to the Middle Ages to fight Magus. You make your way through Magus's castle. You have to fight Ozzy first, and Ozzy's henchmen.
Flea and Slash, which is a reference
all
to
three
the
of
world.
them. All three of them are references to metal bands, Flea, Slash, and Ozzy. Yeah, I know. It's cute.
It's kind of cute, yeah.
So you fight them. Ozzy turns himself into a big ice crystal. And instead of like fighting Ozzy, you attack these like little chains
levers
behind him.
Well, he uses these levers throughout the entire
just
castle.
Teasing you. Yeah. And then you attack a lever, and a hole drops underneath Ozzy, and then Ozzy falls into the abyss, and then you don't even have to fight it. So like it doesn't even matter. And anyway, I think at this point you kind of get hints that Magus is trying to summon Lavos, and you go and confront Magus, and he tells you, "Why would you break this ritual? I'm trying to get Lavos here." And, your party is trying to stop, because Magus is trying to summon Lavos, your party is trying to stop him from finishing the summons. So you fight Magus, and at the very end, the ground starts to shake, and Magus says he's woken. And your party gets, teleported somewhere, and, the castle kind of deplodes in some way.
Well, causes a rift.
Yeah.
Of some sort.
It causes a gate, really, a time gate to happen, and it's a big, massive time gate, and it definitely has something to do with Lavos. When your party wakes up, you are in a cave in the middle of this snowy land. You find out later that it is the Dark Ages. Basically, the entire world is covered in snow, and it's like the Ice Age, really. You make your way to a cave where you find a teleporter pad.
Yep.
The teleporter pad takes you up into the sky where it's this lush green land full of like a big city. So as you're investigating the city, you come to realize that this civilization is very sophisticated, and they have wealth of knowledge of magic. And the more you talk to them, the more you find out that the queen has kind of built this people, and her magic and the magic of the Mammon machine is being utilized to keep the ground above the sky, above the wintry cold. And all of the people there are so thankful of her because obviously she's helping all this. But also the Mammon machine is generating so much magic that it's even outpowering their sunstone that they would have normally been using to create this much magic. You make your way to the
keep like climbing up these mountains with these like teleporter pads. Or no,
Right,
you
yeah.
keep like moving across.
Yeah,
the
you kind of
continent.
have like you go from like one side of this like little island to the other side where you got to go down.
You're also finding
And then you
those
go back.
people who are incapable of using the magic.
You don't really find them yet.
Really?
Yeah, you don't find them
Oh.
yet. You hear about the non-magic users, but you don't really talk to them yet. But you do hear that those people are specifically helping build the underwater palace, this like under the ocean area that's supposed to be magnificent or whatever. But you make your way to the upper palace, and you come across Scala. And what's
Scala?
Scala and Janus or Janus?
I think so.
It doesn't matter. But they're definitely different. And I think Janus at one point says something like
One of those among you will perish, or something like that.
something weird.
Yeah.
In any case, you find the Mammon Machine, and it interacts with Marley's pendant.
Well, first you see Scala use her pendant.
Yeah, and somebody says that it looks just like the pendant that Marley has. So then you go to the Mammon Machine, and it activates Marley's pendant to be the same with this like special power. I think it's like the seal of Zell or whatever.
Zeal.
Anyway, so you
charge your pendant.
and then you're able to enter the royal
locked rooms.
chambers. And you go into the royal chambers and find that Scala has been like forced into using her magic with the Mammon Machine. And there are others, like as you're talking to the folk around, they kind of talk about how Scala's been forced a little bit too heavily, like definitely causing suspicion, causing you to want to figure out what's going on with Scala, what's going on with the queen, what's going on here.
Right.
And as you talk to, as you enter the room, there is a hooded prophet there who says, "Those are the people that I warned you about." And Scala immediately stops everything and, basically wipes your party out and throws you in.
Is it her that wipes you out, or is it the queen? Oh no,
it's not Scala. It's not the queen.
What's his name?
Delton. Delton. In any case,
Dalton. His golems. He's got golems.
Yeah, he's got golems.
And they wipe your party out.
He's kind of like the prince, but like
he's not even that. He's more
know.
like in charge of like all the fancy like equipment stuff.
Yeah.
And like I think I'd more reckon him to like the guy who's in charge of like weapons.
Yeah, sure. Heidegger.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And he uses these
like robotic golems to fight your party.
You can win those battles, by the way.
I probably would have if I'd have tried again, but I didn't. I didn't care.
So yeah.
So he wipes your party out, but you wake up in like this floating chamber. And when you wake up, Scala's there with Janus or Janus, whatever. Who's this like little boy, by the way. And she wants to help your group out because her mom, who's the queen, has banished these three wise what were they called? The wise men or the gurus?
The gurus, yeah.
She wants your party to go and find the gurus and save them. So you're as she's trying to free you, the prophet shows up and tries to stop her. Well, they come to a compromise where she will free the party, but the party has to be banished from this time. So they go to a gate, and the party gets sent through the gate, and the gate gets sealed. Scala is very sorrowful because she has to do this, but it's the only way for her to be able to move forward. The party gets sent to somewhere.
You get sent back to I believe you get sent back to the future because you need to get the ring.
Right, yeah, you're right. So you get sent back. Well, there's something else that you have to do in...
You probably get sent back to the end of time, and he tells you of the... like, rumors of a machine to travel time or something.
Yeah, I think so. Yep, you're right.
And that sends you back...
So you go to the future, because now you have the pendants to be able to open up those futuristic doors with the pendants. Anyway, you make your way through there, and you find a room that's sealed, and inside is the guru of something.
The guy who does
wisdom
all the machines
or something.
And stuff, yeah.
And you don't really find him as much as you find like a recording of him.
New.
He's
programmed his intelligence into this new, which is
like a little monster.
It's like a little
doll
blueberry
thing.
monster.
Yeah.
And the new like goes around and like does the things he's been programmed to do, but you get the recording of the guy. I can't remember what his name was though.
I don't either. It was something like Melkor or something.
No, Melchior is the other guy.
They're like similar in names.
Balthazar?
Balthazar,
yeah. Something like that. I don't know. They're really
it doesn't
weird
matter.
names.
It really doesn't matter. The point is that you get the time machine to help you travel through time. The catch is with the time machine is it's like stationary to some degree. It'll fly up and down, but like that's it.
Yeah,
and
it'll
time.
teleport you to different time periods, but in that same spot.
Right, sure.
So you go back. In my game, it's called the Age of Antiquity, but you have to go back to where Scala is.
Right.
So you go back.
You go back there, and you
go find the queen again.
No, you're trying to find the other guru up on that mountain where you fight the really big guy. Because like your whole goal is to save that guy. maybe we'll have to look up their names because I don't remember. But yeah, so you travel up this mountain to try and find this guru. I think it's the guru of like peace or something like that. And all these people were the ones... Huh?
The Gurus of Reason? Maybe? Balthazar, yeah,
that's
the guy known as the Guru of Reason.
Okay.
He,
And Melkor is one of them.
Melchior and Gaspar is the guy at the end of time.
Who's the one that you save on the tower, is that Melchior? Is that the one that you save on the... I think
believe it's no, I think you're saving Balthazar because eventually he gets thrown into a gate and that sends him into the future.
You're right. So in any case, you travel up this mountain and you rescue him, and he's like encapsulated in ice or something like that. And with his aid, you're able to get back to the palace and talk to
the
queen, who travels down, and you also find out that the under the ocean palace is complete. So you find your way to the queen teleports down into the palace, so you follow after her. And the palace is like this big lava area. You make your way through there and you confront the queen, who is very upset that you keep interrupting her. She uses the Mammon machine and Scala to activate Lavos. And like that's her ultimate goal, is one, to become immortal, but also to summon Lavos and kind of be one with Lavos. And using Scala's magic abilities, she activates the Mammon machine, and the Mammon machine like has this connection with Lavos in some way. And Lavos becomes active and live.
Because he's like in the earth sleeping.
He is like, he's in the earth's core. And you don't really understand that until a little bit later. So after the core gets disrupted, after Lavos gets disrupted, you actually go down to meet Lavos face to face, and he's like this big porcupine creature.
It's like a shell. I don't even call it a porcupine.
I've always thought that he looked like a porcupine.
I mean, there's like the spines are, because they are spines, but it's like a big giant shell.
Yeah.
It's very strange. I will say he's very strange.
Very strange. He wipes out your party right out of the gate. The prophet shows up and tries to stop Lavos as well, and he reveals himself to be Magus. And he says that the only reason he's there is to stop Lavos from doing anything, because he knows that Lavos is the cause of everything. And so he's there to stop Lavos, and he gets pushed back. Chrono stands back up and just gets obliterated.
Yeah, he gets ripped apart.
Yeah, he does. Then a time warp shows up and everyone gets, I don't know, like time distorts and things are weird and you wake up on a plane.
Yeah.
The floating islands. What? There was something that had to do with the floating island. Remember that? The floating mountain? That was like chained to the earth. And you like meet
later.
Is it later?
Mm-hmm. Because
I just remember it being this big deal where it like the chains break off and then it like falls to the earth.
Actually, I believe that does happen because Lavos is awakened, the palace rises, and I think it like disrupts everything.
No, there's something else. Well, like when Lavos wakens up, the sky palace falls, but this mountain on the chain has something to do with. I think that maybe that was the mountain that you climbed to meet with Balthazar or whatever. In any case, you meet with Lavos, Chrono dies, and the party wakes up on a plane. You make your way through the plane's like engine. You have to get your equipment back because you've been captured and all of your equipment's gone. You trace down your equipment and you confront Delton, who is like the captain of this plane who's flying through the sky. But you find out that he's actually captured your time machine and he's equipped it with wings and has completely changed the
But he keeps saying it's gonna be his throne.
Yeah,
which I thought was so dumb.
He's equipped the time machine with wings, and he's flying through the air, and your party jumps onto the time machine, fights Dalton and his
golems.
His
golem twins.
Yeah. And then you take the time machine back and you're able to
like freely fly around the continents now instead of just being sedentary.
So now you have full control over all of the continents, all of the world in every time zone or every time period.
Yeah.
And you can freely move between all of them and talk to people. At this point, the palace, you find that the palace has risen, the underwater palace has risen up out of the ocean and is floating through the sky from the Dark Ages clear up to the future. And because Queen Zell is like she's immortal now and she is one with Lavos. So at this point you could accept the fact that Chrono's dead and fight the queen, which I'm sure gives you some different ending.
Yep.
Or you can, I don't know. Can you fight Lavos though? Probably.
There's a lot of different endings I think you can get.
Yeah. So in any case, for most of us, we want to save Chrono. And you find that there perhaps is a way.
You're instructed to go talk to Gaspar at the end of time, and he talks to you about the Chrono Trigger.
Yes, the namesake of the game.
Which is an egg.
It is.
Which I thought was weird that they would call an egg a Chrono Trigger, but I don't know. In any case, it's an egg. But you need...
It somehow is supposed to warp time to fill in time gaps or something like that.
But it's gotta be done right in a way that you gotta have, like what it was like a strong like desire or something to want to save this person or something, because he kept saying as a disclaimer it might not work,
right?
But it was like their only hope at that point,
right?
But they have to find basically they need to find
all the things. They have to find all. They have to have the right circumstances to be able to work. And who is it? Is it him that talks about needing a clone?
I believe so.
That I think that he says that you have to find a clone of the person that you want to bring back. You need the Chrono Trigger, and you need to go to that Death Peak or whatever it was. So the only place to get a clone of Chrono is to win the mini game at the fair in modern time. So you go to the fair, you win a Chrono clone. You take that with your egg to this mountain, this very specific mountain. And I think that's at the end of time too. Or no, it's in it's just outside the dome where Balthazar is. In any case, you go up there and you offer the Chrono Trigger to the mountain. You offer the Chrono Trigger to the mountain. The Chrono Trigger flies into the sky, breaks apart, and nothing happens until an eclipse shows up. And this eclipse causes time to warp, and you're sent back to a frozen state just before Chrono gets obliterated by Lavos, where you're able to switch Chrono with the clone and return back to your own time. So from the player's perspective, back when that happened, nothing happened. Like, Chrono showed up and was just blown away by Lavos. But in reality, Chrono shows up, gets swapped with the clone, and the clone, or this doll, really, it's just like a doll, gets obliterated by Lavos. So Chrono is now safe and sound with the party. In the meantime, like, before you get Chrono even, you have this opportunity to fight Magus.
Oh yeah, you do have to confront him, because you decide what you need to do, and your party actually goes up somewhere and sees Magus. And like I think Frog might have to be in your party. I don't know. But in any case, Frog has the option of fighting him or just settling it just peacefully. It's
basically Magus says that he is Janus or Janus.
Something like that.
That Scala is his sister, and his whole point of summoning Lavos was to destroy Lavos for killing or something to his sister. And he's trying to save his sister. Like, that is his intent through this whole thing. That we, as the player, interrupted him from summoning Lavos, so now he can't get his revenge. And so you have this option to fight him again, and if you fight him, you end up killing him, and then he's gone. If you decide not to fight him, you can walk away from that fight, and then he asks to join you in your hunt to take down Lavos. And obviously that's the better option, because more party members is always better, and Magus is awesome.
Yeah. Did you play with him in your party?
A little bit. Not much, but a little bit. I normally, when I get Magus, he's like number one.
Yeah.
Because Magus is awesome. But this time around, I didn't, because the rest of my party members were like so perfect. I'm not gonna. I had a flow.
Thing, yeah.
But yeah, so you get Magus for your party, and then you do the whole Chrono stuff. Once Chrono is in your party and the Black Omen is in the sky, you really only have one option, and that's to fight. Well, your next main goal is to fight Lavos. Although, no, there's something else that happens because you find out about Lavos falling from the sky, like, at some point, because you go to the Reptor palace. I think that's just before. Maybe that's when you're trying to get the time machine.
It's one of those things that it might be. I think it's one of those like side things that you do to get to the point where you are. I think it's...
Well, to fill in the gaps, the history of Lavos is he travels interstellarly from planet to planet, absorbing all of the planet's energy. And that's what he does.
Yeah.
And he creates spawns to go off and do the same thing. So basically, he and his spawns are destroying the universe planet by planet and absorbing all of the life and moving on.
Evil.
Right. And when you're in the prehistoric times, you actually see Lavos fall from the sky and enter the earth. And then, like, in the future time, he's drawn enough energy to be able to
finally awaken
and destroy the earth. And then, you know, that's kind of where Queen Zeal comes in, and she wants to be one with Lavos to be able to live forever and, you know, be one with him. The reality is she is kind of being possessed by Lavos in some manner, and
I think she's just going crazy.
Yeah.
As they do.
Yeah. So your party really is just like, you have to fight Lavos to save the world. You're offered a ton of like side quests that you can do at this point in time.
Yeah, you actually can go to the end of time and Gaspar will tell you like he'll
give you hints.
Well, I think he says like this is it. You can go fight Lavos, but there's also this other stuff because he gets these like whispers of time.
Yeah.
And he gives you hint for each character's like side story. But then also you can decide how you want to confront Lavos, which is cool because there's like 3 or 4 different options.
There's a lot of different options. Yeah. You can, well, did you do a lot of the side quests?
I did all of the side quests.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. So most of the side quests are pretty straightforward. Nothing like
it's kind of just like tying up loose ends of the characters' backstories.
It really is. Yeah.
It's nice that you have that. Like you don't have to if you have no interest in say like Ayla or something. You don't have to do that. I don't think
Ayla has one. Yeah. Ayla's whole like story is wrapped up with like the reptards, and when you fight the queen for the last time, like that's it. Like you go to the palace and you fight the reptard queen. And that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you're the dominant race at that point.
Well, like, you get to learn stuff about Luca and her mom, because you find out her mom can't, like, walk.
Yeah, when you're out and about, you kind of realize that Luca's mom has got some sort of deformity or something.
Did you know you could save her?
I did.
Yeah?
I did save her.
Did you save her?
I did save
awesome.
her.
I
didn't even know until this gameplay that you could save her. And it took me like 2 or 3 tries to get it right, but I did it. It's the side quest where you replant the forest.
Yeah.
You actually have a slumber party in the forest, and during that slumber party, Luca wakes up, and there's a random time portal there, where she...
It's like red.
Yeah.
And usually it's blue.
She goes through this time portal, and has this flashback of that time that her mom got trapped in a machine, and present day Luca is able to stop the machine before her mom gets her legs get sucked in. Yeah, it's a terrible accident.
It sounds honestly, I have this mini panic like that's terrible.
I know,
my gosh.
and when it happens, even like you walk out into that room and she's like, "Oh, hey, hanging out with Luca or whatever," and the machine fires on, and she's like, my dress is stuck, and she's slowly getting sucked into the machine, and like you have a mini panic attack, like, oh my gosh.
What I like about that cutscene is that at the time Luca has no interest in like the machines and the sciencey stuff, which I think is funny.
Well, I think that
whole thing turned it around,
right?
But it just really impacted her as a character, which is nice to. It's a nice mini character development, I guess. I mean, it's not mini comparatively for her life, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's interesting. For me, I was able to save her, so like if you read all of the little hints around the house, you get the idea that There's one from her dad that says, in case of an emergency, the passcode is my wife's name, and you can tell the wife's name is Laura or something like that. And you go up to the machine and it says enter passcode, and you could type it in your controller to put in the passcode. There's a very specific way you have to do it. I can't remember now off the top of my head how. But when I did it, I had to try 2 or 3 times to get it right because you have to do it just right.
Do you get something for saving her?
Just a different storyline.
I see.
You don't get anything different.
Well, the best thing out of that whole thing, which I used, was what happens after you leave that time frame and you meet up with Sleeple.
Robo.
What's funny is I called him Robo the entire time, but every time I'm with you, I call him Sleeple.
So, yeah, you get back from your little time in Luca's weird time
flashback
trip.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. And Robo shows up and is like, hey, all this time that I've spent plowing the fields, I've been compressing this crystal
sap.
Oh yeah, that's what it was, sap. I've been compressing the sap for 400 years under immense pressure to give you this. And it's this like pendant, and she obviously, her and Robo have this like connection.
Yeah.
And it's a sweet little gesture.
Really sweet.
And the item that he gives you is like this auto life item. Did it save you a lot or something? Because I never used it.
It helped me in the cases where because a lot, especially near the end, because it's pretty much you're at the end by that point. I would have a move cast on me that would kill 2 of the 3 characters, but if I had auto life, that meant 2 of my characters were still alive, and there was more opportunity to recover from that.
That's true. Yeah, I never used it. I didn't.
Yeah.
Usually if I was having a problem with a boss, I was either not doing something right, or I was just being stupid. Or my characters were dying so often that it was what's the point, in having a one-time re-raise when I could just keep doing life.
I had a lot of help with a bit of guide help, but honestly, I was a lot more in tune with my equipment through this game than I think I know. Normally I'm just equipping the strongest. Where here I was being a little more what's absorbing what and what is defending what, and I was a little more conscious about it, and that was one of them. But yeah,
we'll talk more about.
Do you remember what it was called in your game?
No,
mine was something weird like the Green Dream.
yeah.
Okay, well they renamed a lot of different things in my game.
Did they?
Yeah.
So in any case, you do a bunch of side quests. You can fight Ozzy. There's
you could tie up Glenn's past a little bit.
Yeah. You can go back to there's a cave in one of the areas
the Rainbow Shell?
Yeah, you can do the Rainbow Shell stuff. Just a bunch of basically it's a bunch of stuff to prolong, give the game more life, give you a little backstory on stuff. Give you a chance to level up, give you a chance to get some awesome items. Yeah. I kind of went through this really, really fast. So I got a new sword for Chrono, and I do another side quest, and I got a better sword for Chrono, and it's why?
Why did I go through all that trouble?
Right.
You also, though, one of your many options of when you finally decide that you're ready to end the game, you can actually, one of the main ways, the true way, I guess if you will, is you go through the Black Omen that's been floating, but you can go through it 3 different times.
Really?
Yeah, because they're in 3 different timelines.
Oh, I guess so. If you make your way back, you can actually fight it in each time zone. Interesting. I didn't know that. See, my brain was okay, the Black Omen shows up in the Dark Ages, so I want to fight it in the Dark Ages and kill it all the way up. But I never even crossed my mind to work my way backwards. That's cool. That's how I did it. So I went through the Black Omen in the Dark Ages and confronted Queen Zeal. And honestly, that was kind of just it was just interesting. It was interesting to, like, the final fight was really interesting. It was a very different fight. The Black Omen as a dungeon was really long, and I don't know, like, there wasn't much story development in there at all. Like, it was just a weird thing.
I don't know. Yeah, I agree. It was not as well, I want to say it wasn't as interesting as there were some pretty boring dungeons, but like, I think it was okay. You fight like a few different bosses in it, and they're like mini bosses basically, which is interesting too, I suppose. I think it was just more of here's this unique looking dungeon and a bunch of strong enemies to help you get ready for your final fight.
I think you're right. Because by the time I was done, like, I was pretty beefy.
Yeah.
I was.
I think it's good too, like, you're building up this, like, it's a serious place,
right, yeah.
and, you know, it's kind of just setting the tone for, because, of course, you don't want to just be able to, like the others, where you can go through, like, a bucket, just stroll up to the end boss. If you're wanting to build up this, I don't know, story, because, like, I powered through, and I was like, I'm gonna beat everyone up.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing.
So, yeah, I think it worked in a way.
Mm-hmm. And what's neat is the Black Omen really is your gateway to Lavos, because after you fight the Black Omen, you're teleported directly down to Lavos himself.
Yeah.
You fight the Lavos shell, and then you walk into Lavos' shell, where you can fight the Lavos core system.
Him, basically.
Like the true Lavos.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's where the end game stuff is. But, like, you could alternatively wait until you can just use the bucket at the end of time where you confront Lavos and skip the Black Omen altogether.
You can almost use it almost immediately. As soon as you get to the end of time, you can really...
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think once Chrono dies.
Oh, really?
I think that's the soonest you can do it. Because that's when you can go through the Black Omen, is right after Chrono dies, when the Black Omen is in the sky. Because I think at that point, the main storyline's pretty much over.
Yeah.
It's just finish the game.
Yeah.
And so that's where all the multiple endings come in. So, like, depending on when and where you fight Lavos, and what party members you have when you fight him, and if you've saved Chrono or not when you fight him, you get all these different endings. Also, if you die while fighting Lavos, you get a different ending.
Yeah.
So, like, there's a lot of scenarios where things could be different. I didn't go through and explore all of them. Mine was basically, I saved Chrono. I went to...
You had, like, the true ending.
Yeah, I feel like I did.
Me too.
Yeah. So, after you go through and you find the Lavos, like, shell, you enter his shell, you fight the Lavos core, or the
Cell.
Cell from Dragon Ball Z. He really does.
He does.
And it makes sense. It's the same artist, so it kind of makes some sense. Then you fight the Lavos core, which is the true Lavos. You can die, like 7 times and then finally beat him.
Yeah.
That would be fine. But once you finally do get him down, the world is just at peace. Chrono and Marley go back, and they go back to their own time zone, where all of the kings of all of the different time...
The dumbest part of the entire game.
Luca has somehow managed to gather all of the kings and leaders of all the different timelines or time
They're
eras.
basically saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but, like, time's already altered. Why further alter it this way?
I know.
What a terrible idea. How irresponsible.
All of the kings show up, and they congratulate Chrono for a job well done. Really, Chrono being you, the player.
Yeah.
Congratulate you on a job well done, and you go to the Moonlight Festival, which is at the carnival grounds.
Yeah. The Millennium Festival?
Yeah, the Millennium Festival.
That only happens once a millennium. So.
No, I think that they call it like the Moonlight... Oh, maybe it's the Moonlight Parade?
Oh, yeah, the parade, yes.
Yeah.
You're right. Because it is at night.
Yeah.
And they're all the dancing ladies are like,
yeah, the dancing ladies.
And all the little girls are like blowing kisses.
And like, seriously, the dancing ladies are only in this part of the game. Like, they're literally nowhere else.
Their animations were really cool. I was really disappointed. I'm like, this could have been used elsewhere.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. In any case, you go back to the Millennium Fair, and you have this big celebration for Chrono, and the big celebration for the Millennium, and you go back to the very back where Luca is, where her time machine normally is, and you kind of say goodbye to all of your friends who are going back to their own timelines.
The saddest part of the game.
I know. Everyone kind of goes back and does their own thing, and they all, take their kings with them. They all kind of say their last farewell to Chrono. Chrono's mom shows up and like decides to go in. Oh no, Chrono's mom is giving you crap for not feeding the cat. And the cat goes through the time machine and gets sucked into time wherever it's going.
And his mom goes
and does the same thing. Well, Lucas says that the energy for all these time gates is running out, and when the Chrono's mom goes through it, the time gate collapses. And
they were talking about dismantling the
time machine. Well, they're all like, well, Chrono's mom is gone. What are we going to do now? And it's like, well, just use the time machine. So they all jump back in the time machine and they travel back into time to try and find Chrono's mom.
Did you see the flashbacks, like, with the characters and you see the Ree in the background? The epoch? Yeah, okay.
Yep. Yeah, you see, like, Robo and his girlfriend, you see them.
Oh, yeah, like on a mountain or something.
Which we didn't talk about at all. It
was part of a side quest.
It was just a side quest where you go into this, fight
the mother brain.
It's the factory where the robots are all made, and you gotta fight the mother brain of all the robots, where you see like Robo's girlfriend.
Well, they're like,
and she like gives them crap.
Processing the people.
I know. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. But yeah, I mean, like, you do see all the characters kind of doing their own thing. Like Magus is like just flying through space trying.
Well, I think he's Magus looking for Scala, which I'm sorry, I wanted to know too.
Same.
Yeah, I want to know what happened to her too. And I remember thinking, that's the last time you see Scala is at the Lavos part where you rescue Chronos. So what happened to her?
Right. Yeah, she's just is gone. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird loose end. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the end of the game. Like, you're flying back through time. Like the story continues in some way.
In my game, which I'm sure now, but if you have the full motion videos with this, you actually see an ending scene too with Chrono and Marley getting married, and you see all your party members, don't you?
Yeah.
So they have it's like its own cutscene of all the
FMV,
endings.
Yeah, where you kind of get a little bit more from all the characters. Like you said, you see Chrono and Marley getting married. You see Luca with like a mini Robo.
So cute.
I know. You see Frog, who's transformed into his original body. You see Goku.
No.
Chrono does look a lot like Goku.
He does. It's weird, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like little snippets, nothing.
It's nice.
Major,
it's a nice tie-up to the end. Like, if you're wanting like a cutscene, like that was a good cutscene.
Yeah, and it was, and it really did fulfill that desire.
It filled in that void. It needed a little more.
It was nice. But yeah, I mean, that's the end of the game. Long-winded for sure. What did you think about the story? Now that we've told the story, what did you think about it?
I mean, overall, it was a really good story.
What would you give it for a score?
I gave it a 10 out of 10. There was things I desired to know more about, but when we first played this game, it kind of left things open for like, will there be a second game?
Right.
And that kind of stuff. And when we were complaining about them bringing all the leaders and stuff together in one room, it was dumb, I'll admit, but like that's to be expected when you're talking about storylines with dealing with time.
Yeah.
So I think overall, solid story.
I completely agree. when I was first going through the game, I kind of felt like you don't know anything about Chrono. And I understand that was a very intentional direction to go in, but like being that he's the main character, all I want is to know more about him. Yeah. Like all you really know is that he lives with his mom and a cat. Like that's all you know. And, you know, it leaves me for that desire for more. But the more you play and the more you project yourself onto Chrono, the more it's like, that doesn't matter. Though I do have to say, more as a nitpick than anything else, is that I do want more. Like, I want to know more about, you know, all the characters and what happens at the end. Like, they left it so open-ended. Yeah, it could be a whole nother game, and you know there is more story kind of there, and the way that they tie it into Chrono Cross, Chrono Cross. But for the game as it is, there's loose ends that you kind of want to know more about. But I mean,
it also makes you think. Like it makes your mind think, because playing this game, messing with several different timelines. For one thing, time has obviously changed. They even say that at the end, like,
they do, yeah.
When they're going to the future, it's going to be a completely different future that they're going back to.
That was the problem that Luca had with sending Robo back. Like, she knows that if Robo goes back, his timeline might be
erased. Not be there, yeah.
So, like, he doesn't know what he's going back to. All he knows is that it's going to be a completely different future because Lavos never destroyed it, which is what his timeline is, is like the post-Lavos apocalypse. So, like, you know, with that being erased, what kind of future is there for him? And, like, I want to know. I want to know how Frog turned back into a human again. I want to see that.
Yeah, that was one of the things I really wanted to see.
I really kind of feel like that the game could have been extended more to include some of these things, but on the flip side, where they left it was kind of a sweet spot.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Lavos is gone, the world is saved, and I really felt that sense of urgency with Lavos. Like, yeah, you know, to some degree, yeah, not a big deal because he spans across all time. Like, really, if Chrono and the group wanted to, they could fly to, you know, the Middle Ages and live out their time. They live out their life, and they don't have to experience the apocalypse. It's just
that really does make the difference. It's kind of like his mom at the end going into the that's terrible, but like that would have been whatever because Lavos was really for everyone, the entire planet, every single person living. And so, you know, there's more urgency in that.
Yeah.
The only thing I really kind of wrote down that would maybe be bad was there was a lot of like kind of fetch quests, but they kind of made up for it by, like, when you finish some things, they automatically teleported you back to where you needed to be, which was sweet.
It was nice. It was nice. I don't know. I understood the concept of the fetch quests. Like, well, I felt like the reason you were, like going to get the Mazmune. You're there to find the Mazmune. Like, that's your quest. And yeah, it's kind of a fetch quest, but like the reality is it has so much to do with the story that it makes sense.
You traveling between time periods, that's the whole point of the game. So it makes sense for some of these things. Like I said, this is just nitpicking.
Even as far as like going, like at one point you have to travel through the sewer to get to the other continent in the future area. And like, you know, it's not even really a fetch quest as much as it is just like you have to get from point A to point B, and this is the only way.
I guess I was more or less thinking of like the beef jerky. You have to get beef jerky to the front lines, but you got to go back and forth between the castle and the bridge and dealing with family drama or whatever. It's those little things, which again, there really wasn't even that many, but there was still that back and forth thing. It's just like, you know, then going to the other time period, going then back to the time period you were in. And
honestly, I thought that those were fun.
But again, that's the point of the game, really, is you're going between periods.
It's really cool to see the game manipulate itself when you change something in the past and see how that affects the future. And I loved that concept. Like some of the side quests that are completely optional, but like you can go into the past and get tools and bring them to the future. You bring it from the future, bring them to the past. The guy in the past has lost his tools were stolen. So you go into the future and get the tools from his, like, potentially his descendant. Get his tools because he's busy getting drunk. So you get his tools, take him back into the past to be able to fix this castle. It's just so cool how these things... And then once the castle's fixed, then you go back to the future and find that the castle's been fixed. And you can
change some of them to be, like... one of the mayors in the present is, like... He's like, I'm filthy rich. And you can change it by talking to his wife, I think, and making her more... You give her something, and she's more humble.
It's the jerky.
Is it the jerky? Yeah, that jerky does everything.
Jerky gets around. Yeah, you go into the past. Yeah, okay, so he's... Okay, let's see. It's the Moonstone one. It's the Moonstone side quest. You get the Moonstone... and you place it in the distant past and watch it develop through the ages. But at some point, it, like, disappears. You find out that it disappears during the 1000 AD or whatever, the Common Era, present day.
Yeah.
And you go and you find out that the greedy...
the greedy mayor.
The greedy mayor has it, because his house is, like, shining, sparkling. Yeah. So you talk to him, and he's like, this greedy guy, and he's not going to give you the Moonstone. So you go back into the past, and there's a lady there who's like, I really need some food for some new recipes or something. So you give her some jerky, and she's like, well, how much do you want for it? If you just give it to her, she will
raise her kids
to be humble. And so when you go back to the present time, he has converted to this humble mayor.
Yeah.
And you talk to him, and he's like, oh, a Moonstone? Yeah, here you go. And then that's it. Like, it's just this cute little, like, thing.
Yeah. Well, and it shows you, like, you are really messing with time.
Yeah.
The chests, you can, there's, like, several black chests throughout the game that you can finally unlock when your pendant's charged. And if you talk to them in the past and choose not to open it, you can go to the future and get an upgraded version of it, and then go to the past again and open it and get that one.
Huh.
So you really are manipulating time.
Yeah, I don't think I did that.
I mean, again, I was using a little bit of a guide there for a while, but
that makes sense.
It is very interesting, and like I said about the Black Omen, manipulating time in your favor, it really makes you think.
Yeah, it does.
It's cool.
It's such a clever... This is the only game so far that I've played that has used time travel in...
decent way.
Right.
Yeah.
In a way that makes sense, in a way that is easy to understand, easy to keep track of. When I played Final Fantasy 13 2, we haven't played it for the podcast, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I have played it, and it jumps around timelines so much. By the time you finish, you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you're just jumping around timelines all over the place, and it gets confusing. Like, they do a okay job at keeping it straight, but nothing like Chrono Trigger. Like, Chrono Trigger just does it well.
Yeah.
And, you see those... because you have the time machine, you see those immediate impacts. Like, you drop Sleeple off to help that girl plant the forest.
They just hop in the time machine.
And he even says that. He's like, for you, it was just a hop in the time machine. For me, it's been 400 years of hard labor, working on this forest. It's such a clever use of the mechanic that you can't help but appreciate it.
I'm going to call it a problem. I had a problem with something, but I did not let it affect my score, only because when you're dealing with time like this, there's always plot holes because there's so many different things that could go wrong. But I didn't understand why the king didn't already know about Chrono in the present.
Yeah.
Because, like, they made it a big deal to, like, he has, like, his own dish named after him and stuff. And, like, I don't know if you noticed that or not when you go to, like, you run around. Anyway, like, they make it a point of remembering, like, the heroes and stuff. And, like, then, of course, you meet up, all of you guys, at one time period. And it's just, that part is, like, mind-boggling to me. Because, like, then, of course, you want it to be the present king should know, but he's so quick to throw you into jail. Yeah. And I mean, you deal with the king, and like he's got his own, like Marley's side quest is really rekindling their what's dead between them. But I feel like it could have been a little more cleverly plotted in a way that when it made sense. Like that was the one thing that just kind of boggled my mind. Like this already happened. He should know who we are. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
I agree. It could have been written in a way that, like, only Marley's allowed into the castle. And only because she's mistaken for the queen. So when you walk in, like in the Middle Ages, when you walk in, you're walking in only as Marley because she's the only one who has access to the castle. You know, like things that they could have worked around.
I think it almost would have been... It would have been an easy write-off, but if to just been like, you know, I realize that this is going to affect the passage of time. We're not going to... This is an unspoken thing. I don't know. Something.
To some degree, though, they also have things like obscure possibilities. So, like, Luca talks about how she knows from the history books of this hero showing up to slay Magus. Well... From their perspective, that hero should have been Cyrus, but it was just the hero, in quotes. So, like, there is no name associated to that hero. It could have been Chrono this whole time.
I always just assumed it was that Frog was eventually supposed to go slay Magus.
Either way,
yeah.
It's the hero. It's not a named person, so therefore it can be under any guideline it wants to be. It's just that the hero shows up and slays Magus with the Mazimune. So, like, from that perspective, not knowing who Chrono isn't that much of a surprise.
But then they made it a big deal to, like, save the rainbow shell through and they, like, stored it away for, like, a certain time or something.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's true, yeah.
Again...
Like, you would think that the plaque on the door would say, save until this day for Chrono, you know?
I guess it's just, it would have been so easily, like, we're not going to speak about this, but we will make sure it's saved through the time. You know, something just...
Yeah.
Again, even if it was just a lame excuse of writing it off, it was the only thing that really was sitting in the back of my mind, like, why wasn't this talked about?
Or to approach the king and say, you know, for reasons we can't disclose our names or something, you know, just something clever to... Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it would have been really simple, but again, like, when you're dealing with this kind of, like... timeline, so there's always something, like, it doesn't always line up because it's like the butterfly effect. Like everything, it really will be a completely different thing if one thing is changed.
Yeah.
I mean, I still kept it a 10 out of 10 because it's amazing. They did justice to their side characters. They all really had a good shelled out story. The only thing that I really would have liked to see, like I said earlier, was what happened to Scala and when did Frog get changed? Did he ever get changed? Because, like, in the original, he is never...
In my version, there is no, you know... You would assume that would be a quest that he would want to go on, is how do I change myself back?
Why didn't Magus change him back?
Right? Like, now they're, like, friends in some way.
I really would have appreciated it if it had been... You can join, because you confront Magus near the end, and he can join your party, or you can kill him. And it would be justified of Frog staying Frog if you killed him, but if he joins your party, the stipulation is you've got to change him back.
Or, in Frog's side quest, where you deal with the ghost of Cyrus, have you seen the... Yeah. Anyway, when you deal with the ghost of Cyrus, you know when you confront when you go to
his like tomb,
and there's like this big thing where the Mazmune transforms into the Mega
that would have
Mazmune
been
or whatever.
a great opportunity
To be like, boom, the Mazmune is full blown, but also Frog is now a human. Like, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal to transform his character back into his character. Like, I don't know.
I think that would have been a really great opportunity because when he was with Cyrus, that's when Cyrus died and he was changed into a frog. That would have been a great redeeming.
And it would have been just a side quest.
Yeah, it was optional. Otherwise, he could have stayed. I mean, they had so many other optional things that would have been just a great, like, and a part of Frog's side quest is getting him changed back. It really would have sealed it a lot more.
Yeah, right.
But again, it's
for what they've given us.
I mean, that was
right. Yeah, all this stuff we're really nitpicking. I mean, I give it a 10 out of 10. It's a fantastic. Yes, there are a few plot holes. But for the story that they gave us, beautifully done, beautifully written, fully enjoyed it all the way through. Like, there was nothing that I was doing that didn't feel like, why am I here? What am I doing this for? Aside from maybe some of the side quests, but that was mainly because it's like, why am I doing this for this weapon when I'm just about to do this other thing for a better weapon that I didn't even use the last one? Like, I don't know, just that kind of stuff. But again, nitpicking, small potatoes compared to how amazing the overall story is.
I think it's easy for us to nitpick these things. And really, when we're nitpicking it, a majority of it is, I want more. And that's just because we enjoyed the story so much.
Agreed, yeah.
Like, the story really is fine as it is. It's beautiful. I want more.
Yeah. And it's sad that they didn't do a direct sequel. But, you know.
It wouldn't have been nearly as good, probably.
No, it wouldn't have. It wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's just, you want more because you're a fan of the game, so you want more of that game.
Was made today, you could have gotten that end stuff in DLC.
Wah, wah.
So,
graphics. Let's move on to graphics. I gave it a 10 out of 10 unless you can convince me otherwise.
It was hard finding stuff to really unjustify. Like, what didn't I like? There really was...
Out of all of the categories, I feel like this one is the lowest quality. Don't get me wrong, I don't think that the graphics are bad. I just feel like some animations were a little stiff in comparative to Final Fantasy VI, where I feel like the animations were super fluid. This game, the animations just felt a little bit stiff. That said, they were so cleverly executed. I mean, all of the stuff like...
Dancing?
The dancing, where they used like the climbing the ladder animations, and they used those animations so cleverly that they didn't have to include extra animations that were unnecessary.
I forgave a lot of that stuff because some of the animations they did were so fluid and unique.
Yeah, no,
like
absolutely.
The girls that you only see at the end where they're dancing with like their scarves, beautiful. And I mean, there just was even like some of them, like the Mother Brain, very interesting.
Oh, all of the bosses were amazing, amazing. And a lot of them had moves that were unique to those bosses. Never used again. The animations never used again. They were maybe used once or twice in the whole game, but they were beautiful.
The only monsters I can recall being reused, like reskinned, were monsters where it made sense. Like the little like slime guys, like they had different colors,
like filler monsters.
The different colors indicating like this, whatever. That's whatever. But even like the robots, well, of course they're reused because they're all the same kind of robot,
right?
So that kind of stuff. Like there really was not like, because you see it all the time where they're repetitive monsters,
just like reskinned a different color.
Because these ones are harder, so therefore they're gray instead of tan.
No, I totally understand. Now, when you're going through the Black Omen, you refight a lot of monsters that are a different color, and I think that they call them like metal mutants or stupid things that they're harder versions of what you fought before. But like it didn't feel like that big of a deal. Like it just didn't.
It's not one of those.
It didn't. It's not like they overdid that.
Yeah.
Had it been like the slime monsters in every single dungeon in every single era,
that would have been.
and then they just reskinned it, then it would be like, yeah, no, this is a problem. No, like you go into the prehistoric times, you're fighting dinosaurs.
You have far more unique sprites for monsters than you do with the palette swaps.
Yeah,
like
agreed.
By far.
Yeah.
Lots of unique monsters for their specific areas
and timelines,
sense.
and yeah, like I was saying, you go into the past, you fight dinosaurs. You go into the future, you're fighting robots.
Right.
Like that's what's cool about this game. Like you're going all over the place. Going back to clever use of animations, the fighting, the battle system, the like text that you can do. So like every character has, this is a little bit of gameplay too, but every character has a specialty technique that they can use. They have like a set of, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. And each one of those has a very specific animation. It takes you a lot of time to build those techniques, but once you've got them for each character. Those techniques then can be combined with other characters' techniques to make like double and triple techniques. Those
8 characters.
8 characters?
You have Chrono, Marley, Luca, Frog, Robo, Magus, Ayla. Oh, so maybe it's 7.
Yeah, I think it's 7.
Okay.
But yeah, 7 different characters. They all can be mixed and matched in any way. Like, Chrono doesn't have to be in your party all the time, especially after he dies, he doesn't have to be in your party anymore.
Yeah, you can have whoever you want by that point.
Right.
And that's when they start really learning the triple text.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking triple text for 3 different party members between 7 characters. That's
a lot of moves.
A lot of moves that you might not ever even use.
I know. Oh, I didn't use most of them. Anyway, that's not the direction I was going.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Every one of these moves are unique, but they use bits of the original techniques in their animation. So like Aurora Whirl is Chrono using Cyclone with Marley using Cure. So it's like this, or Aurora.
Yeah.
So like it's this like double combo that creates this new move. But like the animations are the same. It's just combined
used in a
cleverly.
Way, yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Like I was using Arctic Impulse. That was my triple tech. It's a triple tech with Frog, Chrono, and Marley. And it combines Marley using ice, which is her ice casting animation, and Chrono using his slash?
Yeah, I think so.
Or something. In one of those moves where he's jumping in the air to slash down, plus Frog using his X cut.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it's like X cut with, like, slash, with, like, magic. It's just all these animations reused, but in a clever way. So, like, they don't have to remake a whole new animation for this one move, but still, they can make it unique. It's just,
They all were unique.
It's
really
so clever.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, Ice Water. Ice Water is just like Ice 2 with, like, a bubble around it.
But it's
still unique. It's so smart. For them to be able to save space on this cartridge and compress it and not have it lose its quality, it's genius.
It was genius.
It was.
Also satisfying.
Yeah.
There's something very satisfying about seeing the ice crunch down the water.
And it's satisfying to be able to see, like, Aurora Whirl, going back to that, and being like, oh, yeah, so he knows Cyclone, she knows Aurora. That makes sense. Those two mix, and that's what happens. It's so easy to install that, like, concept in your brain of, well, what other techniques can we combine to create something interesting? So then it makes you want to experiment with other characters to learn new moves.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be a completionist, you'd have to spend a lot of time leveling up each character.
I don't think it would take too long. I was
grinding.
Pretty close to getting everyone.
Really?
Yeah.
I just didn't use enough characters.
I will say, which I guess we can divvy into gameplay, I actually had a well-balanced use of my characters.
That's good.
To be fair, they leveled up with me, so that helped.
Right.
But you use them where they're appropriate, but like I would reach certain points where it's like, okay, Frog and Marley were my main other two with Chrono, but it was hard justifying having two water-based characters for Magic.
Yeah.
So like I would try and slip in Luca in, and I tried Robo a few times. I really wanted to use Robo because he hit hard, but I just couldn't quite get a good like routine down with them, where I was really mostly vibing with Luca, Marley, and Frog.
Yeah, sure.
With Chrono.
Going back to gameplay, the scenery was amazing. The backgrounds.
Talk about graphics.
What did I say?
Gameplay.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
graphics.
I didn't mean
No,
to.
you're right. Going back to graphics, the backgrounds are amazing. The landscapes are beautiful. The water looks really good.
The little minor details, even like opening up some of the mountains to like be able to go into them. Like one of them, I think, opens up or something.
Well, when you do the Mazmune thing, like Frog cuts he cuts the rock open to reveal the cave to get to see Magus, and it's like just a neat, like, you didn't have to do this, but it's so cool.
I really liked the rainbow shell. It's kind of unique looking.
It's so pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Oh,
there
yeah.
really was a good attention to detail. And yeah, they used some of their sprites in a way that it would have been nice to have a unique extra thing, but on the other hand, where they reused them was like, okay. I really would have liked to have seen Glenn a little bit older somehow. I think that really would have been cool.
I would have loved to have seen Frog
to fight him as Glenn.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool and satisfying. But I suppose on the flip side, they'd have to reanimate that sprite with his moves.
Yeah, it would have taken more space.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I'm sure that there was creative restraints that they couldn't do that for. I understand. But, it's a desire. I really wish they would have expanded on that. It's okay, though. Like, again, I'm still giving it top score.
I mean,
10's...
He still was named Frog, so...
Yeah, I know. I mean, maybe...
It makes sense, I think.
Maybe it would have given you, like, when you renamed Dagger.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it would have given you that option to rename him again. I
guess it's just... Well, you could rename the epoch.
You can rename all your characters over again.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, there's a new... that will help you do that.
Oh, okay. Well, now I know.
Yep.
I don't know. It makes sense when this game was made why it was done that.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't fly if the game was made now.
Oh, if the game was made now, I feel like it would be double the length and double the content. And I think it would still be a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like, if it was the same, the same minds involved, like with the technology, like if the technology now was back in that time, the game would be so much more expanded on. But like what we got is still a masterpiece. It really, really is. Moving on to gameplay, I suppose, unless you have something else. I mean, magic is beautiful. Animations are beautiful.
Fluidity.
Everything is amazing.
Chef's kiss.
I mean, aside from a little bit of stiffness, sometimes not a big deal. Gameplay, the battle system is definitely the highlight.
Yes.
It's almost, I mean, it's just fun to play. Like, it's fun to get into a fight. Like, it didn't bother me running into a fight in this game.
I had a hard time. I ranked it 9 out of 10. And it was weird because I couldn't quite pinpoint what... There was something that bothered me about gameplay, but I couldn't quite pinpoint it. And... Because, like, there's... you've got very unique way of fighting your enemies. Mm-hmm. You've got very unique text that you're dealing with. Took a lot of time and effort. Like, in the chests, the multiple chests you can open through different times. Like, that's such a big, important... I did feel like, though, that sometimes having so many texts, I was overwhelmed. Searching, like, if I'm dying, I need to have someone casting Cure right now. Yeah. That was hard.
That was probably the hardest part, yeah.
didn't realize I had double cure. I remembered when I had seen it, but for a while I forgot that I had double cure, because you learn those techs really quick at a certain point. And I wasn't using double cure for a while. Made my game change a lot better.
Yeah, I know.
But like, even I had the trouble of, because I played the DS version, some things were renamed. For some reason, my revives were called like Etherian or Athenian water or something really weird.
That's weird.
I had to remember that was cure. But like, a lapis would cure all 3 of my party members by 200 HP. Had to remember what a lapis was, and where the original was more straightforward. Revive, high potion. There's just stuff and I was having like to remember mid potion, and again, that's really a me problem. But like, going through the list and going through my items, my techs, it's almost overwhelming in the heat of battle, especially because I didn't have it was active, I think.
Yeah.
Where they don't wait to attack you till your turn's done. Like, they'll keep attacking you when their bar goes up.
So what you're talking about, they have... The battle system plays in 2 different ways. You can have active battle system, or you can have wait battle system. Active battle system, the enemies just keep firing away their moves when their time is set to go. There is no waiting between. There's no waiting for you to choose your item. It's just they are firing off the next thing when they have a bar ready to go. For wait, the game almost pauses while you're choosing your next move, and what you're saying. And I because I did active style too, and I had the same problem, especially towards the end of the game. You have so many things to choose from. Finding the one that you need takes time, and in that time, your enemy is attacking you. And trying to find cure when all your party members are about to die, and the difference those like 30 seconds take to try and find double cure makes all the difference. And that was going to be my next thing. Like, I'll go into more detail in a little bit, but I struggled fighting Lavos, and that was going to be my last resort, was to change my battle system to wait instead of to active. And you can do that at any time, but it really can make the difference, because again, wait, the enemy will just sit there and wait until you've made all of your choices, and then the enemy will start attacking you when all the choices have been made. And that makes, like I said, it makes a huge difference.
I realize it can be, I still gave it a 9 out of 10.
Sure.
I realize it can easily be changed by changing it. It's just, it's kind of like going to a restaurant with like too many options. That's how I feel going through my menus.
Well, yeah, and I get that, but I also like, I just, if you don't have all those options there, I think that maybe the problem is, and maybe the way to fix this would be if they changed the way the menu was laid out.
Yes, absolutely.
To where you had more options on the first screen instead of just attack, tech, and items. Like another, like tech, double tech, triple tech.
I think that would
right
help.
there to help you jump right to, like, okay, I want to do a triple tech. I only have 3 button pushes to get to my triple tech instead of like 17.
If you had selected tech and then it brought you to tech, double tech, like,
sure, yeah, something like that.
And again, it was a long time ago, but
they do have a few things to help aid with that.
Yeah,
you can
they
do
do
the
have it
like memory
separated.
cursors, and you can have it set to where everything is always at the top of the list every time. You can have it set to where it saves every previous action. So like basically, once you have your skills and everything set to where you want it, you just keep hitting X or A to confirm, and it'll just keep blasting away whatever it is that you have set. Or you can have it set to where the main menu is default and then your sub menus are memory, and that's how mine was. It helped when I was fighting Lavos. That cursor thing helped because I could have like double cures right here, Arctic impulses right here. It just depends on what character I have chosen at that given time.
I think too, one of the nice things about this is when you run into enemies, your character's spread across the screen, which is nice. It looks nice. But your bar takes up so much space, which thankfully they let you like kind of move it around. If you hit a certain button, it moves to the top or the bottom. Especially because your characters can move around sometimes, or your enemies. But because I think that really was... I don't know how it could have been done better, because I understand they made it so that trying to accommodate, but there was just too much.
There are a couple different ways they could have fixed this. Either while you're choosing your items, while you're in the menu, like the tech menu or the item menu, your menu just expands a little bit to let you see more.
Yeah.
I think seeing more will help you choose, because at the time when you're scrolling through stuff, you can only really see like 4 or 5 items. So it makes it hard. If you miss it, it's like, oh crap, I just missed it. I gotta go back up. Where if you could see a little bit more, maybe you could choose faster, or have an option to go left and right to get down quicker or something. That's probably the worst of it. But, like, still, though, I wouldn't have wanted less options for attacking. Yeah. I think that the organization could have been a little better.
I think... I don't have a solution. I think there was possibly a different solution that they could have done.
Yeah.
The only other thing I thought about, which I don't even know if it's really a bad thing, but the characters gliding across the screen while fluid...
What do you mean?
So when you're walking, my characters anyway, it's like I don't know how to explain it. They just glide across the screen.
The characters behind you?
No, my party. When I'm walking, just me.
Right.
I'm walking on the screen and I'm going through a dungeon. It's
your character's following Chrono, essentially.
Yes. But like when you're going on the map, it's just this like your characters are doing their animation, but like when you're walking like diagonally, you're still walking straight but diagonally.
That's what I was talking about, the stiffness.
I see.
That's what I meant about the stiffness of the game. Like there's something about the game in some of its animations that aren't quite as fluid as I feel like they could have been.
I think, though...
And that's what I'm talking about.
With that in mind, like the I almost said jungle. The forest between the outside world and the castle. You go through and there are some enemies already, like, on the field. Mm-hmm. You can walk right past them. Or, if you hit the 1 pixel...
I know, yeah.
And you are engaged in battle. Not a big deal, it's just annoying because you're significantly overpowered. Mm-hmm. So, I had a problem where I kept hitting that 1 pixel, but I didn't know because your characters...
They kind of sway a little bit.
I think it's all cleverly done. It really is clever. I think, though, that because there is no diagonal walking, you don't get a true sense of your characters being one with the background. But most of the time they are.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to explain it quite. It's just there's something awkward about it, and that is again nitpicking.
Yeah,
it was the only thing that I had a problem putting it into words. Like, what was wrong about the gameplay? Not much, but there was something like that off.
Again, that was what I was talking about with the game having a stiff vibe to it.
I see.
Like,
I added it to the gameplay.
I feel like you feel like it's not wrong necessarily. It's just there's something that feels weird about it. And it's hard to put into words unless you're sitting and playing it. But I attributed it to like a stiffness in the animation. And like you said, it does kind of make it hard to get a good judge of where you are on the screen compared to where the hitbox is for the enemy. So like you could, if you get too close to one of the enemies, you engage in battle. And like it's typically, for me anyway, I was just running right in anyway. But yeah, there are a few spots that you constantly travel to. And those enemies, you kind of want to try and run around them.
Did you know that you could get you can get a free shelter every time you visit the forest?
No, I didn't know
you
that.
You can get a shelter. You can keep going back. I did it. I got like 30 or 40 shelters. And it kept me equipped throughout the entire... And every time I would go in, I would just make sure and get it again.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Is it like a secret spot or what?
Oh, yeah. One of the, like... one of the white guys pops out of the forest, like the leaves. You hear the leaves rustling, and you talk to it, and he falls out, and he loses his shelter, and he runs off.
Oh, that's cute. Huh.
The last thing that I wanted to mention, which is kind of two parts, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the fair. Maybe more like, I don't want to say more mini games. Like, the mini games were just kind of like blah.
Yeah.
But I would think it would have been really cool if Gato leveled up while your characters did.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Because, so at the fair, Luca has made this robot, and you get to fight him, and he sings into a little microphone. It's really cute. Anyway, you earn 15 silver points for fighting him, and you need those silver points to play these games, and you can get like weapons and stuff with these, or you can even get money. But when you need to get the Chrono Clone, you need to partake in one of the mini games.
Yeah.
And you need to have so many points to do it. And you only have to do it once. Like, if you fail, they'll automatically give it to you anyway. But I still think, like, to go back and just fight Gato a few times would have been...
It would have been fun to have him be a little stronger.
Yeah.
Not by a ton, but just a little bit to
just
make him...
it...
Instead, when you have to do the chronal thing, Gato's, like, stupid easy.
Yeah.
And you, like, blow on him and he falls apart. It's like, this could have been... Like, the guy... The, like, magic guy in the End of Time gives you the magic, he levels up with your party. So, like, they have the ability to do this. Why not let Gato do it?
The only thing I could think is that he's at the fair for, like, regularly level people. But realistically...
I mean, why can't he judge the level of the character and let his level match theirs or something? I don't know. Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't bother me.
No,
like I agree, but like it was what it was.
Yeah.
Let's talk about bosses for a little bit. Did you have any bosses that you had troubles with?
Just the end boss.
Really?
Really, for the most part. I kind of had a guide to help me a little bit. But I really felt like I had my characters really well leveled.
I felt so too. I felt like I didn't necessarily struggle. There were a few bosses that it was like I went into the fight and just like was trying to just kill him. And it's like, no, there's a strategy to it.
Yeah.
So then once you learn the strategy, you go back and you do it again and you just plow them down, no big deal. I had a couple bosses like that where I died once to learn the strategy, then I went back into it, killed them, no problem. There were two bosses that really gave me a hard time.
Was it Zeal?
No. I had no problem with Zeal.
Really? Like her face mask and hands?
No problem.
I died a few times.
I think I may have died once.
Huh.
But like it definitely a hard fight.
Yeah.
And it definitely kept me on my toes and it was a good challenge.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as hard as Lavos. Lavos was really hard. Lavos I fought far too many times. And the guy on that mountain.
Yeah,
saving
he's difficult.
What's his name?
Balthazar.
Balthazar, yeah.
That
guy.
Yes, I remember that. That was the one boss that I ran into and I'm like, oh no. I remembered it being hard. That's how I remembered it.
It was so hard for me that I actually had to look up the strategy on fighting him because I thought that I missed an item to help me kill him.
Oh.
I thought that there was like an item that you had to pick because he was so hard.
Yeah.
Like he was like the game was relatively normal until I got to him and I'm like, why is he significantly harder? Like I've missed something. So I went back around and I was trying to find an item to pick up. I'm like, there's nothing to pick up because I thought that I remembered that there was an item you could get to help kill this guy faster. There's not. I looked it up and it's like, no, just, do it.
Just do it.
So I'm like literally, not literally, practically that's what the guide had said was like, you got to kill the arms first and then like you just kill them. Like there is no special strategy. There's no special item that you have to pick up. You just got to do it. Just do it better. So once
Very
I
hard.
finally was just gave in, and I'm like, okay, I have to find an attack strategy to be able to get through this. I did kill him, but it took me several tries. Just the problem was, and I honestly, Lavos was a similar issue. The two hands, because
They regenerate.
It's a triple attack kind of enemy.
Well, yeah.
It's like the main enemy, and then he has two arms. And Lavos was the same way, like the core Lavos,
Yeah.
and we'll get to when I talked about him.
Yeah.
We'll get to him. But this guy had like the main body and then two arms, and when all three of them are together, he can do these big moves that just hit far too
Very hard.
and that he goes in such a speed that you don't have time to recover from them. So like literally, I was dying within like 2 or 3 turns because of how fast he was cranking these out. And I'm like, well, maybe if I change my equipment this way, or maybe if I attach like defense items.
Oh yeah, like high
'Cause-
defense.
Yeah, well, there was for me it was like a barrier and something else, like an item that you could use
Oh
to
yeah,
give you
yeah.
buffs. But like they kind of helped, but it wasn't enough. So
Yeah.
like there are rocks that are around in that area that you can fight, and they run away
Yeah.
right away. But
They
if
help
you,
your tech
if you
points a
kill
lot.
them, they give you high experience and high tech points. So I went around and killed them all, and that helped me get a little bit further, and that was enough to just kind of give me the
You
edge.
needed a little bit higher.
I
magic.
ended up getting double cure during that time.
Oh, made the difference.
And it did, yeah, like totally. Basically, Chrono did Luminaire every turn.
Yeah.
And the other Frog and Marley did double cure every turn, and it was like I just killed him, and it was that easy, like just death. I'm pretty sure it was Luminaire. In any case, that was kind of a similar problem that I have with
Luminaire.
Lavos. Like Lavos, you fight him 3 different times. Well, 3 at the end, the final
Yeah.
fight Lavos, you fight him 3 times. You fight the like outer shell, you fight the inner like the
Organ.
cell,
Yeah,
like
the cell organ
the cell
guy.
lookalike, the Dragon Ball Z cell lookalike, and then you fight like the core, and the outer shell, no big deal. You fight them. It's a long,
Easy. Yeah,
it's a
it's long.
super long fight because it's really cool too. You're fighting all of your previous bosses in this one fight, and it's really cool. It's not that hard,
No.
but it's really cool. And then like you fight. Once the Lavos shell is dead, then you go in and you fight the inner Lavos. And he's
got the 2 arms,
He's
too.
pretty easy, yeah. He's got the 2 big arms. He's got the main body.
His nipple.
Oh yeah, he
nipple.
opens up his chest plate and his nipples shoot lasers at you.
I finished the game and I'm like, Danny's going to say something about the nipple beams. I went, after you had finished one of those nights, I went the next day in to look and you did. You mentioned the nipple beams. I'm like, I'm so glad you noticed the nipple beams. And while I was watching it, my husband comes up and he goes, is he shooting lasers out of his nipples? I'm like, yes. It was so
like,
funny.
The movie's called like Death Doors or something like that, and it's like, what is going on here?
It's not a big deal. We're children, basically. It was really funny, but yeah.
It was a very bizarre use.
Of nipples?
It really is. Like literally, he's just this big monster, and his arms like open up his chest doors, basically opening up
he opens
his
his bra.
shirt, opening up his shirt. And then he's got little holes where his nipples would be, and they like shoot lasers at your party. And then he just shuts it back up and he goes on about his day. Like, I saw it the first couple times, and the first time it happened, I'm just like,
Oh, lasers.
I was just like, kill the boss, kill the boss. The second time he did it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is kind of weird. The third time he did it, I'm like, why is he shooting lasers out of his nipples? This is bizarre.
Although, I want to mention that boss fight, that Lavos specifically, The music is called World Revolution. I think it's my favorite boss music ever.
Really?
I love that song so much.
They're all...
Yeah,
we're
really
about
good.
to get to music.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The final boss is really cool for that. But after you fight that, like, Cell lookalike, you fight the core, and the core is really difficult. It's not once you finally understand.
Yes.
But you see, my problem was... So, all right, let me explain the boss fight. Let me lay it out for you. There's a center humanoid thing,
which you assume is Lavos,
and he summons these two little like blob monsters to accompany him. The right blob monster, like if you're looking at it on your screen, there's a right blob monster who seems to have an absurdly amount of HP. There's a left blob monster that doesn't have much HP, but like he's constantly curing the center monster. So yeah, your habit is, well, the center monster is the one we gotta kill, right? Well, you kill the center monster, and the other two just like restore it back. So then you kill the left monster, and the other two just restore it back. And the right monster has this absurd amount of HP. And the first time I played it through, I probably got pretty close to killing him because I didn't understand what I was doing. Like, I just kept attacking with Luminaire, and it was doing damage to the right core, but like it didn't seem to be doing anything. Like he wasn't dying like the left one kept dying, where the right one just wouldn't. Because I thought I had to kill all three of them at the same time.
I see.
So then it was like, okay, well, if
maybe it's the humanoid one,
I can kill the right one. Let's kill the right one and try and kill the center one. I killed the right one and then killed the center one. I was trying to kill the left one. I was killed the left one, killed the center one, trying to kill the right one. I still couldn't do it, and he was just absorbed, not healing, but he was just taking everything I threw at it. Just like I was doing like triple techs and just pummeling this thing, and he just would not die, to the point where I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. Like, obviously. So then it's like, okay, let's I think my next strategy was like, let's try and just like kill the left one as soon as possible. Then maybe the right one, because the right one would get like a defense thing. And I'm like, okay, if I can get the right one's defense down, maybe then he'll stop like dismissing the damage I'm giving to him. Not thinking that he just had an absurd amount of HP. I thought I was just doing something wrong. So once the left one's dead, then attack the right one. I was doing that, but I kept dying. Like, I didn't have enough time because I just kept trying that technique and thinking that maybe after 2 or 3, good solid hits, that would go down, and then the core would be the center would be left, and then I would win. Still didn't work out. I fought this guy, I'd say at least 7 times, maybe a little bit more. There were a few times that like Frog was left with like 6 HP, and I'm like, reset. Done. Like I'm not even gonna do it. Then like after a while, I started getting like burnout, and like when you fight Lavos, you have the outside shell. When you fight that shell, you get a save point.
Yeah.
So like
thankfully,
every time you restart the fight with Lavos, it's just the 2 stages. It's the like cell lookalike, and then it's the core. So when I'm refighting him over and over again, I'm fighting the cell lookalike and then the core. And the first form, I started dying at the first form. I'm like, what is going on?
You needed a break.
I'm like, I just cannot figure this out. I am so frustrated. At this point, I had been at the Lavos fight for like 2 hours, and I'm just like burnt. I'm like, I am doing something wrong. This fight is not supposed to be this hard. But like, I didn't want to look it up because I felt like I was cheating.
Aww.
And like, I did look up the other fight, because it's like, it's not the final boss, but it's like, come on, the final boss. Yeah. I should be able to just kill the final boss. Like, I'm doing something wrong. So my last, like, when I finally beat him, my strategy changed from like trying to kill the center core to just trying to kill the right core, because the right core just kept taking damage, and I'm like, he's got to have a limit. Like, there's a limit to this guy somewhere. So like, I would just destroy the left one and then just pummel the right one.
Yeah.
And just constantly hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting, keeping up with my health, which was a struggle half the time. The lapises did really well because it was a quick 200 to everybody. And sometimes I would do that on all my party members, mainly because if my HP is low, like Chrono doing 200 to everybody right now was better than waiting for double cure.
Yeah.
So like, you know, doing that, just like knocking those out, maybe throwing in a Mega Elixir just because, or
it's
you
the
know,
last
whatever.
boss, so
right,
might as well use them.
So yeah, eventually the right core finally fell, and then the center core fell with it, and I'm just like, yes! Just like, it's finally over.
I walked in the door as you did it.
Oh yeah?
Well, that's what you told me.
Yeah, you totally did. Like, I heard you walking, because you were on the stream for a little bit, and then you were coming over just today to do this, and I'm like, just finally beat it, and I heard you walk in the door as like I did the final hit. Just so happy to have it done. And then you watch the ending cutscenes and it's fun, but yeah, he was a struggle.
It's interesting because if you kill that right core first, it kills the others, which to me is kind of interesting because that means that was Lavos. Mm-hmm. That was the intention. And I think that's really smart.
Yeah, it's a way for the developers to change up the final fight. To make it more difficult without it being super obvious.
Yes.
Because the whole game has trained you to be like the center is the monster. Where this one is like, not quite. Let's throw a twist in there.
It would make sense for Lavos to be like that because really, to me, it's saying he's trying to convince you this humanoid, because he's not really human, is him.
Yeah.
And that's your main that's what he wants you to think your main focus is, so he can kill you. Yeah. And it's just, I think it makes sense where it was.
Yeah, it does.
I liked that.
And then if you die from Lavos, you get a specialty cutscene where Lavos just destroys the world and everyone just kind of is bummed, and the end. Like a bad ending, ending. And it's just neat that they added that extra ending in there at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you think? Move on to music?
Would you give
I give it a 10.
For gameplay?
Gameplay,
yeah,
10.
I gave it a 9.
I just, I agree with you that the menus could have been a little better. I think that the weight battle system fixes that.
But it shouldn't, I don't know.
I get what you're saying, but like, it's supposed to add that layer of difficulty to it. It's kind of like hard mode versus normal mode.
I suppose you're right. I guess it's just, it was more bothersome than just trying to be hard. Like, it was more of it was a mechanic that was really kind of
a bit of a flaw.
Yeah.
Really just towards the end of the game. Like, the first half of the game, you don't even notice that because you only have a handful of techniques anyway. But once you start storing up a lot of them, getting to like the triple text takes a minute. And that does make the difference. But not enough for me to flaw it at all. Like, literally,
I don't know, there's a few little minute details that I felt like it was enough to give it a 9, which is
and that's fine. When I'm looking at it, if I'm having such a good time just fighting enemies, that, like, if the grind isn't a problem, the game is really good.
When you're fighting those boss battle music, like especially with the music, you're into it. Like, you are like, yes, let's do this. Yep. That's how I felt when the World Revolution song started.
And that's a good segue into the music. The music set the tone for this game from the very intro screen.
10 out of 10.
Like,
hands down.
You're introduced to this world, and it sets that tone. It sets that, like, awesomeness, that adventure vibe from the beginning. And then it's like, as you're going through the game and you're experiencing new characters, and they all have their own themes, and they all have their own moods. It feels right all the way through. And yeah, all the boss battles are almost the same. There's a couple different ones. There's like the basic boss and like a super boss music where they're a little bit different, but like still it sets that mood. It sets that like, let's do this. I'm ready, you know.
So many iconic soundtracks. They used it for the Tokyo Olympics, one of the Frogs theme.
Yeah.
Frogs theme, beautiful. Magus's theme, beautiful.
I know. I think Magus's theme is probably my favorite out of, I think Magus's theme is the best theme song ever. Like, just,
it is.
That like wind that howls at the beginning before it like kicks off, and it's just like yes, the fight with Magus is on, and like it just sets that mood. And like even walking into fighting Magus,
it's such an iconic scene.
The flames popping up as you're walking down, and then like how it like speeds up as it goes around the circle, and the Magus is in the middle, and it's just like
satisfying. Yes.
Oh man. And then the music, just the wind howl, and he's like, the dark wind howls. it's just so cool. It's so awesome. I remember when I was a kid playing this game, I honestly
replay that part.
No, I had to because I couldn't kill Magus. But like I thought Magus was the like boss.
The end boss?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And like you fight Magus, and it's like, no, not only is Magus not the final boss, he joined your party. And it's like yeah! My little brain is just like exploding.
Man, to play this game fresh, new.
I know, yeah. I don't know, like I would be curious to know how
a first-time player
would feel about this game. I mean, they would also have to be like an RPG fan already. Yeah. So like I'm curious how somebody playing it fresh with adult eyes would feel about this game. But like it's hard for me to fight that nostalgia feeling when the game is phenomenal anyway. Like the game is already phenomenal. On top of that, it's already got a nostalgia to it. So it's like it's just this perfect storm for a perfect score.
Scala's theme, amazing.
One of the best in the game. Like, I thought
Zeal's was amazing.
Yeah, all of Zeal's, everything about Zeal was really cool. Like the magic themes of that world. Like I wanted to live there. I want Magus's cat. Yeah. Just everything is just
what was his name?
Alfred? Alfred, yeah, something like that.
Even like the regular battle music, I think about that. Jokingly, I'll be going around like da na na da da. Like that's the song I naturally gravitate to.
When I think of battle music, it's not Final Fantasy battle music. It goes to this one. It goes to Chrono Trigger. It's so weird.
World Revolution, that technically second battle with Lavos, is my absolute favorite. Also, the sounds Lavos makes, unique and amazing.
Yes, he makes this like gurgly.
Yeah.
Oh, and when you kill the like first Lavos core,
I can't even do it. Like,
he does
like
this
whopping.
Like, yeah, it's like womp.
It's like crying.
Womp, womp.
It's weird.
And then you fight the core, and it's like weird and spooky almost, and it's just.
But I mean, Lavos is an alien,
and then you're fighting the core, and you're like going through time. And you're like, just everything. Oh my goodness, you guys, if you haven't played this game, if we haven't convinced you to play this game, we're doing something wrong.
It's hard. I feel like we're really putting in, at least I feel like when we're talking, I feel your excitement, I hope you feel mine. It's just, there is this special moment of when you're fighting, like the end boss especially, it's like you really are part of that game. Like you are ready to do this, you are ready to like your full attention is this boss, even though you have to do it 8 times.
Yeah, and that's probably the crappiest part, is when you're fighting him that many times, it kind of takes you out of it. But then like
initial urgency
when you finally wrap your head around a solid plan, like for me, I finally got my head around a solid plan, and I'm like, I'm gonna execute this plan. And then it like follows through, and it just brings you right back into it. Like, yeah, my mind was like out of it, and I'm like sick of this. I'm like, let's just get it over with. But as soon as he went down, as soon as I killed him, I'm fully invested again. And it's just, it takes me right back into it. It's just such a smart way, everything.
Precious gem in my memories.
Sorry, going back to music, what we were trying to talk about. The sound effects for all of the spells are fantastic.
Yeah, Luminaire is probably my favorite.
Luminaire is really cool. I really like the sound effect for haste. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's cool.
Frogs, when he's... Wah, wah,
Yeah.
wah. I love that. I've always thought... In fact, I really wanted it for my text tone for my phone. But, yeah, a lot of that stuff is satisfying. Sorry, go on. I'm so excited.
Chrono charging his electric moves, just in general, where he's like arms wide open and like the stars coming in. It's just,
not as intensely amazing, but one of my favorite songs too is the dancing music for the prehistoric guys. I love that song. And you get to dance to it. It made me want to dance. I wanted to get up and be like, yeah.
Okay, and then the first ever Rickroll.
Oh, yeah.
Robo's theme. Robo's theme is essentially just Rick Astley's song.
Never gonna give you
Yeah. Like, it is. Like, it is.
His stuff is amazing, too. Like, his music and sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, his noises are really cool.
Gato's, ba, 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 ba.
Hey, my name's Gato. I have metal joints. Beat me up and earn 15 silver coins. Hey, you get me singing. Yes. That's how much I love this.
Oh, I know you did it. You know I did. I was singing that song.
Man, well, the whole time playing this game, I can't help but whistle some of the tunes. For one, I know them all, but also they're like super catchy.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely
just perfect.
A lot of the sound effects were very, very satisfying. Like, all of them, almost. Like, there is very... The only one I'm not crazy about was Aurora, or, like, Whirl.
Really?
And I think it's because it's kind of in a higher pitch sound that it doesn't quite ring right with me. And it's still cool, it's just, I didn't like it as much.
I used it so much that I associate that sound with,
being healed.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of great... Even the monsters just screaming.
And the roar of the big dinosaur guy.
Is
you
can feel it.
So iconic. Oh man. Yeah. And the laugh of the like magician guy. It's the same.
Kefka.
It's Kefka. Yeah, it's the Kefka laugh, just like at a different speed.
It's like coming down from a high.
I know. I know.
Like, I got excited.
I could go on and on about how amazing this game is. And I mean, this leads to a good overall.
Yeah.
I gave it a 10 out of 10 for music as well.
Yeah.
Overall, this game is it's a thrill for me to relive it. It's so much fun to just travel through time. It's such a cool concept for a game, and they did it so well that like literally picking it up and playing it for a few hours isn't enough. Like, you play it for a couple hours, it's like, well, I'm invested. Like, you can't.
This is the quickest I beat a game.
Yeah, I know.
I beat it in like 2 weeks.
You did.
You were the one who did it last minute. It was weird.
I had a lot of crap going on this month that sent me back. But like, you texted me saying that you would like, you were already past Magus or something, and I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, I haven't even. I'm like 3 hours into the game. What's happened?
What's funny is you started before me. And I remember, like, okay, I've got to boot it up. It was like a week into the, like, month, I think. It was, like, almost a week.
Yeah.
And I sat down, and I got to, like, an hour before where you were. And then I picked it up again the next day, and I got, like, an hour past where you were. And then I kept going. And then you played a little bit, And then I kept going and kept going. And I was putting in hours at a time.
And it's easy to do when because I stream a lot of these games, I have a set schedule. So, like, I only play 3 hours a day for 3 days a week. And I only play during the week. So, like, for you, if you're playing any downtime you really have and then some, like, you're easily going to surpass me.
I also had the benefit of having it on my handheld. So, like, I would play it while I had free time in between taking care of my kid. But, like, when he went to bed, I could play it on the couch and then play it while I'm going to bed, staying up longer than I should, playing it in the morning. You know, I did definitely have a lot more time than you. For me, I'm usually sporadically busy and can only really play at certain times, and I get unmotivated sometimes. I was fully invested this time. In fact, I remember telling you, like, I think I'm ready to play Chrono Trigger, and apparently I really was ready to play Chrono Trigger, because I beat it really quick.
We've been wanting to fit this game in for a long time, and I think part of the problem with playing it, the reason we set it back was because we know that it's such a good game, and now that it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I'll easily play it again, but we're never, I mean, maybe in the distant future, we'll replay it for a specialty thing. But, like, once we play a game for the podcast, it's pretty much done.
On the shelf.
Like all the Final Fantasies, like 1 through 9, they're pretty much done. Like, we may not ever play them again for the podcast. So, like, to have that for Chrono Trigger, knowing that it was going to be an amazing game, then finally being like, I think it's time.
You know, I don't know what if I had to rank my top 5 favorite games, I wouldn't know where to properly put them all, but it's in my top 5 favorite games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Like, hands down.
It's funny because I honestly think that Chrono Trigger, I've always said that Final Fantasy X is my favorite game, but I'm pretty sure Chrono Trigger
10
or 7.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know what I was saying.
Me out.
No,
like,
Final
what?
Fantasy 7 is my, because I had 10 in my head because we're going to be playing it next. Final Fantasy 7 I've always said is my favorite game, but I really truly think Chrono Trigger probably is. Like, deep down, like, I want to say it's 7 because everyone says it's 7, but I'm pretty sure it's Chrono Trigger.
I mean, see, this is the problem I have, because for different reasons, I have several favorite games.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Why can't I have number one favorites,
yeah,
you know?
There's no reason.
Because really, Chrono Trigger is really freaking high up there. If it's not my favorite, it's definitely my next favorite.
It's funny because it has that nostalgia, but it's also
a really good
an amazing game. And, like, it's funny because I think it has better graphics than Final Fantasy VII. Like, it's not quite as in-depth. It's not quite as, realistic. But
that's okay.
They used the medium that they had so masterfully in every aspects, in every single category, that there's no way that this game could possibly rank out Final Fantasy VII. Just Final Fantasy VII, yeah, it's a great game, it's beautiful, it's a masterpiece in its own right, but, like, even on its own hardware, it could have been better. And I can't say that for Chrono Trigger. Yeah. In its own hardware, there is no way this game could have been any better than it was. Yeah, they could have rewritten a few things to make it a little more cohesive or whatever, but, like, it's about as good as we could possibly get on the Super Nintendo. Just hands down. Hands down.
There really is. I mean, it's kind of like a work of art.
It really is.
You could have done things differently, and it still overall would look like a masterpiece.
We've never been this way for any other game.
It's hard.
Again, we have a lot of nostalgia behind it, so you're getting some of that. But
you don't want to be biased just because you love it. So, it's kind of like me trying to nitpick. Like, I really think that you're probably right. Gameplay probably is a 10 out of 10. In fact, I'll just change it now. It's a 10 out of 10.
Okay, well.
I agree. It really is so minute, but, like, it was hard finding stuff that really was wrong with it.
Right.
Like, yeah, it could have been done differently, but really, it still was overall an amazing masterpiece.
It really, at this point, if you're an RPG fan,
This is a game that you need to play.
This is the best game you're gonna get, at least on the Super Nintendo. Maybe beyond that. But like, if you're not an RPG fan, you may not find that much value in this game just because it's a RPG core. Like, it is the core of RPG. Like, if maybe Earthbound is gonna be awesome too. I've never played it, so I can't say. But like, Chrono Trigger, if you're an RPG fan, Chrono Trigger is going to be the like top tier RPG that you're gonna want. And I don't know, it delivers on every aspect. I give it a 10 out of 10 on everything. I mean, it's a perfect score.
I think I agree with you.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. It's perfect.
And I wanted to go into this game to try and find the things that weren't perfect. And I couldn't. I couldn't find anything that was so like
significantly to knock it down.
Yeah, to really even bring it down even a point. Like, there wasn't anything. Like, there literally, and I would love to talk to somebody who doesn't like this game, because I want to know. I want to know what it is. And I would love to, try and agree or find that, oh yeah, you're right. This is bothersome. Why do I like this game because of that? But no, as it stands for me, 10 out of 10, or 10 out of 10 on everything. Yeah. It's a 50 out of 50, 100 out of 100 for both of us.
Play it. Would you be interested if they ever remade this game?
No.
Fair.
I don't want them to remake this game.
I don't think I would either.
I've heard people talk about it, wanting them to remake it. I don't want it.
The only thing...
If they remade this game, it would lose 100% of its charm.
You know what I think would be really good to be remade? Is Chrono Cross.
Sure, yeah.
I think we should play it soon.
We should play it soon.
Yeah. That's a good game. Well, it's hard to connect with this one, though.
I do have to say that the fans got together and made a game called Crimson Echoes. And it's supposed to take place between Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. And it takes as much of the source material as possible to bridge that connection. And it's supposed to be a 40-hour game.
Wow.
It's not... It's basically just like a redesign of Chrono Trigger. They took the same assets and just reworked it to tell a new story. So if we played it, it would be the same game, just like, written,
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they take the same core concept and just redesign it to make more story. And I did buy myself a physical copy because,
did you really?
Yeah, well, they have, so the game was in development by fans and people who were good at developing games. It was a fan project. Like 2 weeks before its planned launch date, Square sent them a cease and desist or whatever. Stop.
Halt it, yeah.
And so they stopped it, but over the years, ROMs have been leaked, and those ROMs have been burned onto cartridges, and I bought one of the reproduction cartridges. So that's in the mail right now. I would, if we wanted to try and check it out...
I think we should.
Again, you have to understand, it's a fan-made game. They did what they could to keep true to the source material, but there's going to be a lot of, like... Maybe it's not going to be this way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to take it with that grain of salt, but I think it would be interesting.
Technically canon.
It's not canon at all. It's just as close to canon as we can get at this time.
I would be very interested in playing that. Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but that sounds very interesting.
I didn't know anything about it either, but I was looking up stuff for the podcast, and I came across this, and I'm like, I want to know more about this.
I think that's a really interesting concept that we should really do for Zap Night.
I think so too. Some like fan-made ROM hack type stuff. There's a lot of Pokemon ones that are interesting. There's this Chrono Trigger one.
You should let us know if you have any that we should try out.
Yeah, if there's any other ones that you guys know about, that would be awesome. I would love to do some more. I know there's a ton of Pokemon ones.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So if there's any Pokemon ones that are fantastic, I would love to play them and give them a shot. But I just don't know enough of them right now. I have maybe one or two, but I don't really know the difference between them. So, I don't know. Let us know if you're listening to this and you made it this far. If you know some ROM hacks and want to see us play some, let us know. But I think we've exhausted our time with the...
I'm tired. I got really excited. I feel like I had a birthday party.
I know we're like coming down from this high of talking about it, and like, yeah, I do feel a little worn out. It's been long-winded. Sorry that this is a long podcast episode, but we have a lot to say about this game, a lot of good things to say about this game. And I hope that, I'm sure that if you're listening to this, if you're not just listening to all of our podcast episodes, you probably are listening to this because you're also a fan of Chrono Trigger. And for that, thank you for listening. But also, we've played lots of other games. I mean, we have all of the Final Fantasy series under our belt. We've got, well, not all of it. We have 1 through 9 and 15. But we've got, like, Resident Evil that we've been playing, Spyro. We did Cool Spot. Just like
Donkey Kong.
Yeah, we've done Donkey Kong. So I mean, we've got a lot of other games. This, like I said, this is episode 79. That's 79 video games that we've reviewed in our past 5 years of playing.
Well, 78 in a movie.
That's true. Yeah, fair enough. So, you know, there's bound to be something else that you're also interested in. So make sure you check out the rest of our stuff.
Our Zap Chats.
Yeah, we do Zap Chats every other podcast, which doesn't count as a review, so we don't number it. We just call it Zap Chats that month. So yeah, we will be doing another Zap Chats on the 15th. Check that out. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. I'm sure it's going to be something related to maybe the next game, which we are going to be playing Elobits.
Yay! We did that for a thrift store.
Yeah, we did, and we really liked it. So we're going to bring it back for a full podcast episode. That will be next month on the 1st. What is this? August 1st, so September 1st.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know, it goes fast. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up next month. I'm not going to be streaming this month because of that, so I'm luckily going to be happily taking a little bit of a break from streaming. We are going to be starting Final Fantasy X, though, on stream probably towards the end of August. So if you guys are interested in Final Fantasy X, make sure you're following us on Twitch or Facebook. I've been streaming on Facebook as well. But yeah, guys, check us out over there. Come say hi. I would love to hear that you've heard our podcast episode. And yeah, guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.